That is Tom. On Twitter, it's at Jake Cameron Show. And away we go, everybody. A lot of activity in the portal. A lot of efforts to go out and get. And I think there's a lot of ways that one could look at that. There is certainly the obvious way, which is they're not altogether pleased with their roster. That is the simplest and most straightforward way to look at it. They don't have all of what they need, or at least they're lacking a depth of what they need, and they're seeking to remedy that. That's been the chatter over the last several days, where I think on the heels of seeing the commitment of the defensive end from Thomas County to Cal, people feel like it went a little bit far. Like that, damn it, man, what's going on here? And, you don't get the receiver that you initially went after. Instead, he goes to Miami, which means you were outbid. And then they're going to turn their attention to a different receiver. But they did get the offensive lineman from Rutgers, so he's certainly a sizable individual. If you just look at the numbers.
Can we just say he's from the prep ranks? He spent 3 months at Rutgers. He's essentially a high school recruit, right?
That is correct. Yeah. But I'm also correct in saying he's a sizable individual.
Yes.
He's a big man.
6'6", 330.
Yeah. I just hope he can play. Now, I do like, when you're talking about offensive linemen and defensive linemen, a lot of times the better players at those positions anymore with the evolution of the transfer portal, those aren't guys that are of the elite caliber. You're better, well thought of, upper end offensive linemen that end up turning into big time players and get drafted. They are most notably found straight out of high school. So this signing, like you said, kind of mirrors that of a straight out of high school. You got a kid who is 19 years old, thought about it, went to Rutgers, was there for 3 months. Not for me. Left and is now here in Tallahassee. Maybe you've got a guy that you groom into something that is a plus player, maybe for the first time in a long time. You get a guy that is here for multiple years and becomes an NFL offensive lineman. We can dare to dream, everybody. We can dare to dream. Maybe it's so. But we do know the portal has kind of been easier to define lately as far as what you're getting, what kind of player you're getting. And it does change position by position and really year by year, each portal cycle. Occasionally you will see somebody mosey on into the portal that is of the elite caliber. It's pretty rare, though, when it comes to offensive line and defensive line. And I think that's just, again, the evolution of the portal. I think that everybody's now kind of figured out some things. There's a premium price to pay for those kinds of players that are in the portal, whereas you can get a lot of skill. You can find safeties, corners. You can find, a running back, a receiver here and there out of the portal that might be a plus player. And you might be able to, sign a guy that gets you excited from those position groups. Not as much when it's the offensive and defensive line. So we'll see. I think for Florida State, maybe one of the ways that I would view the portal right now, and there are always going to be exceptions because guys develop at different rates. It's not linear. So you may get a kid that was a backup from somewhere who does not portend of greatness, may not be a guy that you think is going to be an all-conference caliber player, and 2 years later he is. It can happen. But I think primarily the way I view the portal right now, especially during the spring, post-spring, I view this as programs trading backups. I kind of look at this as a bunch of programs trading backups. And backups are important. You have to have, I know when it comes to roster building in, say, Major League Baseball, 60-something% of the players that end up starting for you in any given year were drafted by somebody else. That's the way that works in the profession. Very rarely do you have a guy that you signed out of high school, fast forward 6 years, and he stayed in your organization all the way through the minors and is now in the majors for you. Generally speaking, you look out on a Major League Baseball field, 65% of the players starting for you were somebody else's draft pick. So the wheeling and dealing that went on. Now, baseball is very different from football, but football's changing. College football is changing. And I think that when you're looking at roster building now, what you do with your backups, the kids that you sign for depth pieces, very important, because I think we're getting to a place where, much like with baseball, you don't get a get out of jail free card because you don't have enough depth. Like, if you lose some guys and thus your season goes terribly south, you don't get to say anymore, hey, we were counting on these 11 guys and 6 of them got hurt and it ruined our season. Unless one of those guys is your starting quarterback, like an elite level starting quarterback goes down, it's hard to house multiple elite level quarterbacks anymore in the portal era and the NIL era. It's going to be rare that you're going to hold on to guys for 3 seasons. The old Bobby Bowden method of waiting until you're a redshirt junior to get a start is over. It's gone. That player will have portaled out of there long ago. But at many other positions, you have every opportunity to ensure that you have adequate depth thanks to the portal. So the way I view the portal now is it makes it so that, A, you ought not be in a position to where if you suffer a few injuries, your season goes catastrophically wrong. That's on you, man. You didn't assess properly. You didn't recognize the need for more depth. You could have had it for pretty cheap or, a fair price. You're not getting a frontline starter from the portal the way that you did when the portal first opened up and not everybody utilized it. Now everybody understands how to utilize it. Now everybody understands what it is. But, man, people are shopping and trading backups left and right these days in the portal. So you should always have an adequate backup. It may keep you, if you're a championship contender and you lose some key components, you probably are falling out of that championship quest, but you shouldn't fall off a cliff. You shouldn't go 2-10. You should have enough backup in reserves because you could easily identify areas of weakness, areas where there is a lack of depth, and go out and get an adequate replacement at a reasonable cost in the portal. There are plenty of backups that are littering the portal currently, that you could have reached out to and said, all right, that guy will keep us from falling off a cliff. He's not going to be the reason we win games, but we won't go from these levels of goals and dreams of winning a championship to, good God, man, what a horrible season. Yeah, you shouldn't. So go get as many of these kids as you can. I know it's at a cost. I know that you've put yourself in a bad position. But, if you don't think you have a jack, if you don't think you have requisite depth at wide receiver with experience, if you don't think you have, I suppose, a certain type of tight end, well, they're out there in the portal. You can go get those guys. There's plenty of guys play plenty of college football. The film's out. You can see them and say, yeah, that guy's not a huge difference maker, but, man, he's better than our backup.
Well, it's clear that they believe on the offensive line that they don't have the next wave of youth. They don't have that wave of high school recruits who they can hand the whole thing off to and say, all right, we don't have to run to the portal for 4 starters every year. I think what you're looking at right now is at best a situation where you're going into the portal next year for 3 more starting offensive linemen.
That sucks. Got to get better at recruiting.
That's the at best scenario. And you would bring those guys in, even if it was to compete with the younger players as they're emerging. Let's just say that you actually feel good about development through fall camp and through hopefully bowl practices. It'd be nice to have some bowl practices to continue development. You would still want veterans to come in here and compete, but they're trying to nip this thing in the bud. We discussed this yesterday. You're looking at, a Rutgers offensive lineman that's essentially a prep recruit, a Vanderbilt offensive lineman that's only been there for a year, and then maybe another offensive lineman or 2 that are in year 2 or year 3 of their eligibility. So that's telling me that Herb Hand, Gus Malzahn look at the situation. They say, all right, we brought in a bunch of graybeards, a lot of old dudes here who can help us right now. I have no idea what the hell you guys were doing on the 2nd and 3rd line of the depth chart because none of these guys fit what we want to do, and I'm not sure they fit what anybody wants to do. So let's go fix that problem right now. At different positions, you have different goals. Some of them are shorter term, some of them are longer term. But there's no doubt that what Florida State's clearly trying to do, as we said yesterday too, is backfill the roster. I mean, they're trying to backfill this thing so that, if you get, as has been very common here at Florida State, injuries to one specific position group, you're not dead in the water.
Well, yeah, and it's a football game, and it's a violent collision sport. People get hurt all the time, and you need to be able to fill guys, put guys in places that All right, look, I'm not having to turn. When you haven't recruited the prep ranks at a high level and you don't have high quality players at each segment group that hey, maybe he's a little experienced, but from a skill standpoint, he has what we need. Maybe we'll have to thrust him into action before we'd like. If a player goes down, I'm comfortable with that because he's talented enough. All right, well, that's one assessment. But I think the assessment we're referencing now is not that, right? They've whiffed. They've missed on a ton, and they're admitting it. It tells you everything you need to know about the roster and the depth of talent on the roster, or the lack thereof, by how active they've been. We say that they answer these questions for us. We don't have to presuppose. We don't have to guess. If you're actively trying to bring in 5, 6, 7, 8 players even after the spring window, then it tells you they don't feel comfortable with the depth that they have. They're worried.
Yeah, and this is where, for the Jeremiah Wilson discussion last week, we're hand-wringing because we're saying, well, damn it, you're telling us clearly that these kids that we've recruited the last couple of years at corner, you don't feel comfortable with, at least not on the level where you think that you don't need to go grab a plug-and-play starter.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue it back, and I think it's rightful to at least point it out, new scheme, and so therefore natural fits, learning the scheme. Maybe you want somebody who can help bridge the gap, but that message was one that we met with disappointment. We felt very disappointed in the fact that they're sending a clear message that the secondary, specifically corners, not where we hoped it would be as a fan base, or we hoped it would be as a group of analysts here. Safety made a ton of sense. That felt right. That felt like a fit. Corner, well, come on, man. But then there are some other positions where you say, good, I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad that you see the problem. Now, the coaches see it better than any of us, but what we do is when the kids enter the portal and or they bring kids on campus to visit, we react to every single one of them. So for offensive line, I'm thrilled with the approach that they're taking. Good. Be proactive about it. Be quick to punch guy. And let's see if you can turn something into, 2 years from now, maybe this kid from Rutgers and the kid from Vandy, if we land, and both of them are starters for us. Wouldn't that be something? Like, you grab them early in life, early in their careers, you combine them with an Otto and maybe a Jonathan Daniels, and you have more of a homegrown offensive line. Then next year we're going to grab a kid from Houston, and we'll go grab a kid from Missouri, and we'll go grab a kid from Wake Forest again. Like, that's where we've been living way too often of late.
Yeah, I think that they've got a lot of tough sledding ahead of them. They've got a lot of ground to make up. They've got a lot of things that people are right to wring their hands about. At the same time, I get how old it is. I get that it's a repeated conversation. It's a thing where it's like, oh man, this again? That's tough. That's the problem. Quite frankly, it's the problem with doing a daily show with the central theme being Florida State football. You're going to have these conversations ad nauseum. I'm not saying they're not interesting. I'm not saying they're not nuanced. I'm not saying they can't be entertaining. I'm not saying they don't matter. I'm saying that when you have to have this conversation as frequently as we do, it can feel like you're beating a dead horse.
Well, and you can set a watch by it. I believe every April, the last 3 or 4 years, we've had the conversation of, well, they're going to have to do it again next year in the portal, because you just don't see the indicators from the prep ranks and the development that they'll be able to ease off on using the portal. And here we are again this year. Go position by position very quickly. Safety, they might need some help. Corner, they might need some help again. Linebacker, probably so, because they brought in a bunch of super seniors. Defensive line, yeah, definitely they're going to have to go to the portal to go grab some guys next year. Offensive line, you betcha. Four of their starters are brand new and one-year players.
Where they've got to get to, where we're not having the conversation that we're having, requires an awful lot to go right this year. They're trying to ensure that the floor is raised through the portal. They're trying to make sure they don't have another calamitous season. So if you understand that's the end game right now, then you understand, pragmatically, where we're at. It leads to frustration. It leads to a need to vent. It leads to a bigger picture conversation as to how we arrived here. It leads to, is there any way out of this? It leads to all of those things. So whether you're talking micro or macro kind of dictates your mindset and your emotions. Because if you're just looking at the micro, you say, well, they're doing what they need to do right now to address a situation that's not ideal. And again, it's very easy. I'm guilty of it. It's very easy to say that out loud and immediately ask it with an emphasis on the negative. Why? Why are we in this position in year 6, sir? But that's not ideal on a daily basis. So we come back to the micro and say, all right, today, I'm going to let the Zen wash over me. Today, I'm not going to ask the bigger questions as to how in the world are we in this predicament still. I'm just going to say, it is. We are. What can we do about it tomorrow? What can we do about it in the next 4 hours? Well, sign that lineman from Rutgers. Okay. We did. Good news. We signed a kid from Rutgers, or as Tom said, he was 3 months in, so he's a prep rank offensive lineman. There's a change. Maybe he'll turn out to be good. Maybe we'll develop him. And I don't say that condescendingly or sarcastically. We might. It would be a welcome change.
And there's something to that kid as well, because he stayed at home. He went to Rutgers, and he was considering Tennessee and Miami at the point of the decision. And he was a 4-star as he committed to Rutgers last year in the summer. Now he ended up being a 3-star. I think sometimes that's self-fulfilling based upon the program that you decide to go to.
If you choose Rutgers or Western Michigan, you might not get that 4th star.
Yeah, I think if you chose Tennessee, there's a good chance he might still be a 4. So you're not exactly getting the 1,125th rated offensive lineman in the country, which we've taken too many of those at their respective positions.
We don't have many choices.
We don't.
Yeah.
In fact, this kid was an on 300 player at the time that he committed last year in the summer. So there was at least enough potential on tape for a Tennessee or a Miami to look at him very seriously. So this is not one of those where you're going, I mean, this kid will be gone in a year. Hang on a minute. That's what I would say about this particular prospect is hang on a minute. This might actually be a nice, good find here because he was at least a blue chipper for a little while in the process.
Let's go, Herb Hand. Let's get this thing rolling in the right direction, huh? When a tree lands on your roof and there's structural damage, a roofer can't always repair that because it's structural. But with T-Spark, it's one call because you have a general contractor and a roofer all in one. Might add, if you're looking to renovate your home, T-Spark can help with bathroom remodeling, kitchen remodeling, outdoor additions, and much, much more. That is a good thing for my friends at T-Spark Enterprises. You can give them a call today if you like, 850-766-1340. That's 850-766-1340. License number CGC 15255-336, CCC 133-1204.
The best happy hour in the city is at Café de Martín and El Bar. All day, every day, you can find great deals at Café de Martín while enjoying the best outdoor seating Tallahassee has to offer. Sip away on 2-for-1 house wines, chilcanos, and margaritas all day long, Monday through Thursday. Plus 2-for-1 pisco sours and margaritas on Fridays and Saturdays, and 2-for-1 mimosas for Sunday brunch. Come join us at Café de Martín, where every hour is happy hour, in the Esposito Shopping Center on Capitol Circle Northeast.
Hey everybody, this is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry now for 22 years. I just made the move over to the nation's largest retail lender, Cross Country Mortgage, here to serve you in 7 states, including Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and the state of Texas. Here to offer better service, better rates, and if you were thinking about buying or if you've been on the fence and been waiting to call me, now is the time. You can still find me at loansforknowles.com. That is, again, loansforknowles.com. I've helped thousands of fellow Knowles get into their dream home, and I can't wait to help you get into yours. Give me a call today. I'm at 954-369-6171, or go to loansforknowles.com. Again, that's 954-369-6171, and that's loansforknowles.com.
Equal housing NMLS 373031.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now. so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our used showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
No matter how busy life gets, your home is the place where your family and friends show you they care and celebrate with you. That's why the professionals at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning always make sure your home is comfortable. Just like those who matter to you most, Barano will always be there for you.
This is Tyler from Barano Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 186-186.
Science-backed, technology tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
For his part, Mike Norvell addressed the press today. There were aspects of what he talked about that I can appreciate. A much more honest give and take and dialogue from Mike Norvell when he talks about where his team's at. Quote, every practice was not a great practice. Specifically, I'm thinking back to around that 10th practice, wasn't what we wanted. To see the way that they responded over the next 2 days was, I thought, a great opportunity for them to show a little bit of that grit, a little bit of that desire and the edge that we were willing to bring together. I think there's a little bit of gibberish in that, but he was, as he's trying to say, that he was bitterly disappointed when they got to the 10th practice. It still wasn't as intense, as focused, as consistent as he would have liked. This is a Coach Cameron translates, I suppose. And he went on to say that, he once again presented them with the opportunity to show that they are willing to commit to one another, to the program, to the bigger picture, by showing the level of intensity, focus, consistency necessary to achieve said goals, and that they did respond positively for the second half of spring. That's basically what he's telling you.
Which he did address in real time, at least in those post-practice interviews.
He
about
did.
The lack of energy, consistency, respect, all the words that he used.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, it's interesting, Tom, when we sports oftentimes serves as a metaphor for your normal life, your everyday life. When you're up against it, when you've run into a problem in your life or something that needs to be addressed, it could be a health issue, it could be a interpersonal relationship, it could be a job situation. Things get real. Things get very real. You are forced to be honest with yourself in a way that most people, myself included, we all do this. It's how you get by without having an existential crisis or a nervous breakdown. You get through the days, man, and you don't confront all of the things in your life that are either bringing you down or substandard or not to where you'd like them to be. And that includes, your effort to become self-actualized, your effort to improve your own weaknesses. Not a lot of people like to sit around and pondering the things they're not doing well. They like to think about the things in their life that they are doing well and the things that are going well for them, whether that's your job or your relationship with your spouse or work or whatever it is, whatever goal you have at the time. It's hard. But when you run into a crossroads, you are forced to really confront those things as to why am I here? Why am I in this predicament? Why is the situation unsatisfactory? And I think we've seen post 2-10, Mike, be a much more honest with himself and to some degree honest with the press on a more regular and consistent basis about where the team's at, where he wants them to be, the kinds of challenges that they have, the things that they're hoping to achieve. He's not going to get into all the minutia. He's not going to get into his deepest, darkest fears, and I don't expect him to. But I like this version where we can have like sort of a honest dialogue where a guy will tell you, yeah, we weren't practicing anywhere near the level of intensity I thought we needed to be at coming off a 2-10 season. We were not where I thought we had to get to, and I've challenged them, and in some ways he's saying himself to make sure that these players understand that the standard has got to be raised way up here. It's not what it was. We can't go back to that. Look what that just got us. Now, listen, ultimately that falls at his feet, but other than being able to admit it and talk about it freely, there's no other way for you to show it until we play games, until they get out on the field themselves for game 1, game 2, game 3. So, this short of that, this is appreciated by me anyhow. I'm not saying that as a kudos to Mike. It's observational. There's a very different version of Mike post 2-10. How could there not be? How could there not be? And if he didn't do that, if he continued to be a pie in the sky, word salad, nonsensical deflector, I would have a real hard time with it.
Yeah, there's still some of that word salad stuff, but it's much more.
It's usually while he's searching.
Transparent. No, but I'm saying, it's not about aspirations. It's about the real. I think for him, listening to him today, he's very glad that he's getting down on the granular level. I think he's pleased with the fact that he made that decision that he needs to work with guys one-on-one, and that's how he opened his spring practice presser.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about, I need to get closer to these guys one-on-one, meet them where they're at, which was, I thought, a red flag at the time. And it turned out, that was correct, because then they didn't practice well for a few weeks. But I think he's really glad about that decision to empower his coordinators, specifically on offense, to take responsibilities off his ledger so that he can spend more time trying to motivate and get the heartbeat of the team where it needs to be. That's what I gathered from today's presser. This was a heavy lift. I'm glad I chose the priorities that I chose to address with this heavy lift, because it wasn't great for much of camp, but it got better towards the end, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And oh, by the way, as it pertains to the portal, if I can go get somebody who's better than what we have, I'm most certainly going to get it. I love the guys that I have. I think I kind of need to say that, but just in case you don't know, we're getting better. And if the portal can help us immediately, I don't care what position it is, we'll see if we can make a fit work for that. And that was specific to running back as he was talking today. He was asked about that specific position. Yeah, man, that's an indicator of, they got 90 dudes here. And he's like, I'll get another one if I need to, because we need to get better.
You don't have any time to really worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about people's feelings. You don't have to worry about, the thought that somebody might leave. Now, you have to be strategic, and I think they've been very strategic lately. You notice that this effort to really court certain players in the portal come after the deadline for when you can put your name in the portal. So what they did was very strategic. They did not upset the apple cart. They did not tip their hand. They did not let everybody know on this roster that perhaps they were going to recruit over them in the portal. They waited until those kids were locked in and had nowhere else to go because the window was closed. And you know what? F them. They should do that. They should do whatever they have to do, because I promise you, and I'll continue to repeat this is the modern world we're watching here in college football. It is a kill or be killed. It is everybody's out for themselves, and kids will screw you in the dead of night. The kids you thought for sure was locked into your program's ideals, to your program's way of operating in helping one another, will leave you for a check of $10,000 above what he's being paid right now. And he'll do it solely because it's more than what he's making now. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's no rules against it. It's bend over. And two can play at that game. And it sucks, but welcome to the League of Mercenaries. That is the NFL. Only the NFL has better rules. So I would do this all the time. I'd constantly be searching to better my roster, and I would do it in a way in which I protected myself. And if that means understanding when the deadlines come and go, then that's what it means.
Yeah, the only position he specifically addressed today as he spoke to limits and over the limit was receiver, and they had real conversations there. Well, that means that there was a gross overage. They didn't expect for Jaylen Brown to be gone, but there was a gross overage, and they needed to make some things happen there. But you can tell they don't think that there's an overage at running back, for example. Even though there's a ton of bodies on campus, they let the window pass, and then they began potentially bringing a running back on campus in addition to Chroma that they think can help them out. So, again, I think that's the one thing he said today where I went, yeah, well, you have to say that. We love the guys we have. I mean, he said that 4 or 5 times, knowing what just happened. The window closed, and they went a-hunting for both immediate impact guys and long-term impact guys. So you're either pissing off a senior or you're pissing off a freshman or a redshirt freshman by going and grabbing those players. And they know that that's coming. So there is that balance. And you got to pay some lip service to it because you're right. The moment that a kid gets an offer, the kid's going to take the offer.
We'll certainly entertain it. And I just say
this.
I
come back to you and ask for more.
Ask for more money. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of.
Coach, I understood that there was a price match guarantee at Florida State.
Yeah. I mean, I get there's a ruthlessness to all of this now. And I get it. I'm all right. I don't think they were exactly devastated that Jordan Scott left the program at wide receiver. That was an easy conversation. Hakeem Williams had, unfortunately, not developed, not come along in the way that they had hoped. That's a failure on the Florida State coaching staff's part. At some point, Hakeem probably, frustrated by the lack of success he's had at Florida State, coupled with the opportunity to perhaps make more money, somebody willing to take a flyer on a kid that certainly looks the part, just hasn't produced accordingly, probably wanted more, and they said, have a good day. Good. The Jaylen Brown thing was directly related to his arrest. So that was an unfortunate situation because his skill set, they thought, played long-term, and they did not want him to leave. They felt as if they had no choice once the arrest occurred to move on. I might note that young man could not have picked a worse time to get arrested. It is on the heels of or the weekend of a terrible campus tragedy. Nobody's going to have tolerance in a situation like that. They also know it's a bad look. So you're going to wash your hands quickly in that situation, and they did. But by losing a guy that was going to impact the receiver room this season, they felt the need to go out and get another one who has experience and or likes speed.
If they can.
If they can. I don't know that they can. They whiffed on the Cincinnati kid. I don't know if he would have been the be-all, end-all. I know that they wanted him. I know that Miami wanted him. I know a few other teams did, so it seems like he was the best candidate, and they didn't pay enough, and so he went to Miami. That's fine. I understand they're not really in a position to outbid Miami right now for that kind of a player who's basically coming in as a depth piece. Nor should they, because their goals right now, Miami has Carson Beck. They're trying to win the ACC. They've never won the conference.
They'd like to go to the game.
They've been to the game once. They've never won it. They embarrassed themselves a year ago. It was a colossal failure for the millions upon millions of dollars they spent, including have the ACC Player of the Year at the most important position and the number 1 draft pick, and it got them nothing. So their goals are a little different right now. And you're not going to try to overspend for a role player at wide receiver, but you do need the depth piece.
And who knows what that final number is for Miami. There was a report out of the Houston Chronicle today, again, throwing a number out there of what Texas roster is going to totally cost this year. $35 to $40 million is what they're going to spend. Now, these whispers were out there a couple weeks ago, but again, you're starting to see the number floated out there more. A local periodical now in the state of Texas saying, yeah, 35 to 40 is about right. That's what some of these upper crust rosters are going to cost, at least for now, until the settlement kicks in. But they're not sure that that's even going to revert all that much after the settlement kicks in. So what's Miami spending?
Well,
Probably
this is
30?
Well, this is the point that I've been making, is that we shouldn't be so naive. Our athletic director ought not be so naive. They're not going to just stop there. If you want to say the House settlement's going to go through and that everybody's going to have the same amount of money based on that House settlement, then you're ignoring what I think is very obvious, which is collectives are still going to serve a role above and beyond whatever that quote-unquote salary cap is. And I don't believe that salary cap, quote unquote, will be enforceable.
No, I think what you've done is you've upped the average salary of a player. Like, I think you've raised the floor. You speak about raising the floor of this program, wins and losses wise. I think what the House settlement does is it raises the floor of comp for the average player. And it certainly raises the floor for a scarce player, which is a good one at any position, because now you have more money to work with.
Mm-hmm.
If you were building a roster through collective only at $10 to $15 million, now you've got 16. That's the percentage that you want to use of the 20.5 just on football. Well, now you've got more money. So here's the percentage value, if I'm a good agent, that a quarterback is to a program.
Yes.
Oh, so of the 16 that you're spending plus your collective, here's what the price is.
Yeah, the frontline quarterbacks that have a chance to lead a team to a championship are apparently going to cost you between $4 and $8 million.
Right. And
okay.
Not that long ago, it was 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
or
again,
1 to 2.
When you are talking about bringing in certain kinds of players to your roster, some of the positions that cost the most are only benefited if the rest of your team is built out. So if you don't have the requisite skill and depth at the other positions to take advantage of the unique skill set of this individual that you're willing to pay $4, $5, $6, $7 million. So that'd be like bringing in an elite quarterback to throw to a bunch of bums, or a guy that has an elite skill set at quarterback with no offensive line in front of him. You wouldn't spend the money to do that because you're not built out. This is why, and I used this example before, this is why the Philadelphia Eagles could go out and get Saquon Barkley, was they had one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. They had an elite wide receiver. They had every component of the offense that they needed and the kind of offense that they wanted to run, which is run heavy, including a quarterback who is like a running back. And they thought, well, we could take some stress off of Jalen and have an elite level, Pro Bowl level running back running behind this offensive line. And it just makes us that much better. But they would have never done that in free agency if their offensive line sucked. They'd have never done that if they didn't have the other components to go win a championship. So people will say, well, why don't you go out and spend that much money on an elite quarterback? Because we're not there. Sadly, FSU's not in a position to compete for a championship. The roster's not built out. And how do you know that? Look at what they're doing right now. Look at the kids they're interviewing and trying to bring in here. They know they're not built out in the way that they need to be. It's so much easier for Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, you name it, to say, okay, we'll drop $5 million on a player at that position because we're loaded for bear everywhere else.
Yeah, agreed. This is where in professional sports, if you knew you were in a down cycle in the NFL and you're going to have to wear it a little bit because you went for it and you either won the Super Bowl or you didn't.
Right.
But you went for it. You mortgaged the future for 3 or 4 players. You overpaid.
Yes.
And you know that you're trading for people. You're getting rid of draft capital. You know that you're going to be on the downswing for a couple of years unless you knock it out the park with every evaluation through free agency and the draft. Short of that, you're going to have to wear it. And fan bases generally are okay with that.
Yeah, you get a little window of about 2 to 3 years.
Right. In this instance, you have powers, traditional powers, and then current ass kickers, and then everybody else. But some of those teams in the middle will raise our hand. Traditional powers, recent success. We're not used to this. You're going to have some upswings and downswings unless you're Ohio State or Texas, where you can average giving away $350,000 to 100 players on your roster. That's how the math works. To get to $35 million, think about that.
Yeah, it hurts your feelings.
That's an unbelievable amount of money. Now, of course, 100 players don't make $350K, but how do you get to 35 with 100 people? I mean, my God, that's a lot of millionaires you got on your team.
Because you have the most dynamic player in the country playing wide receiver, and you have 3 NFL running backs.
Are you talking Ohio State?
Yeah.
Did I say I was thinking Texas, but sure.
Yeah,
yes.
Well, fine. You got Arch Manning.
They got Arch Manning.
You got Arch Manning. He's going to win the Heisman Trophy in all likelihood. He's going to be the face of college football. Yep. They should go for it.
I mean, that they are.
Yeah, and they should. They're effing Texas. They've wildly underachieved for the better part of 40 years. But they're in a great position now. And why? Well, they have a lot of resources. And Sarkisian got off his ass and began to recruit like an elite program. You want a healthy happy hour? Perhaps you want to step away from the booze a little bit? Here's a more natural and healthier way to experience a carefree happy hour. Here you go. America's USDA organic THC edible. Boom. My boys at Cornbread Hemp, doing you right. No synthetic ingredients. Farm Bill compliant, legal for adults over the age of 21. No harsh solvents, none of the nonsense. Right now, you're saving a bunch of money, 30% off your first order for the Jeff Cameron Show listeners that are tuned in right now. You just use that offer. Visit cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Use promo code warchant at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/warchant. Code warchant for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour.
Your local news now.
A police pursuit that began at a routine road check led to a temporary road closure and the arrest of a wanted felon near the Grady-Thomas County line Friday morning. Old Thomasville Road was temporarily closed during the incident. It all began around 10:30 a.m. when a Thomas County deputy was conducting a road check. A man later identified as Ryan Noel approached the checkpoint but abruptly turned around, prompting the deputy to initiate a pursuit into neighboring Grady County. The chase came to an end when the deputy performed a pit maneuver, stopping Noel's vehicle.
'87 winds out of the south, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 64 tonight, mainly clear skies. Daytime highs approaching 85 tomorrow, mainly cloudy. Upper 80s Friday and Saturday with thunderstorms both days. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently 81.
Do you own a small business? Let me guess. You started your business so you could get bogged down with payroll and bookkeeping, office tasks, and other paperwork, right? Probably not. I'm Craig Collins with Collins Income Tax Solutions. Allow me to help you get out from behind your desk and get back to doing what you love. For any of your payroll, bookkeeping, or other business services, give me a call today and allow me to take it off your plate. You can find my contact information online at collinsincometaxsolutionsllc.com.
There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. You two at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
No Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude,
no.
I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Florida, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Can't wait for that Florida State series against Clemson this weekend. It should be a big one, an intense one, and an important one as both clubs are scuffling as they come into this particular series, but both are very talented. Clemson coming off a sweep at the hands of NC State. That'll hurt your feelings. Probably not expected for that bunch. And then obviously we lost 2 out of 3 to Louisville, run ruled in one of those games. somewhat hapless and helpless on the base paths as Louisville ran whenever they felt like it. 14 stolen bases is a running kick to the boys. As you watch it, it's hard to stomach. I can't imagine being on the field and feeling that helpless as it happened. I think you'll get two very focused, very intense teams in what should be a top-notch, top 25 matchup. I can't wait to watch this series this weekend. It's a big one. It's important that Florida State, to some degree, baseball, you don't use the same terminology as you do in football, but to some degree here, it's important to certainly protect your home turf.
Yeah, agreed. And you can't steal first base. So if you think about it that way, that's 4.5 runs that Louisville generated on the base pass with 14 steals. That's hurtful. Over 4 2/3 runs. Florida State and Clemson now, the midweek RPI has updated. They're right on the top 8 national seed bubble, number 8 and number 9, respectively, in the RPI. So here you go. Remember, the goal that was set was 5 and 4 for these 3 weekend series against Louisville, Clemson, and North Carolina. Well, you're 1 and 2. So you're going to have to take 2 out of 3 from both of these series on average. They're both at home. Come on now. This is it. This is why you got lucky that these series were at home this year. I know that there's a trip out to California in between to go play at Berkeley, but these are the games that matter, and they're going to tell the tale about ultimately when Florida State hosts a regional, what seed they have, and whether they can host a super or not. It starts, today's Wednesday, starts Friday. All these Thursday series have been throwing me off about when they actually begin. This is a big one, man, and the one that's coming 2 weeks after is equally huge.
Yeah, I love it. This is the whole thing. This is where you get excited. This is where, I mean, you play these series against quality clubs. You yourself are a quality club. There's a lot on the line in terms of positioning. Home games at Hauser, no matter what I say about the condition of the stadium, which is that it should be torn down. It is a special place in my heart, though, and it's special because we've been to many a series that are very similar to this one coming up, where you have a lot on the line. There are 2 really high-quality clubs facing one another. The atmosphere is outstanding. It could be even better if we had a newer stadium with better amenities and outfield seats and all that, but it has always been a great place to be. It is loud. That is a knowledgeable fan base. Our Noles are very knowledgeable. I've always admired this fan base in baseball because they know the game. They know the game, and obviously they're active, and we know all of that. They could be enhanced if we, again, had some other things. But that said, I'm not going to wallow in what we don't have. I am going to say I'm a pumped Florida State baseball fan and can't wait to watch the series because I imagine you're going to get, that'll be sellouts for all 3. There's nothing else really happening. No.
The only thing that, you'll have to offset from the local town stuff is that exams are this week, graduation and so forth. So, you'll have to have the local public, I think, step up in lieu of students. Maybe some students will come for that final weekend. North Carolina in 2 weeks, however, will have to be basically a Tallahassee event, which it will be, though, because, again, this place cares so deeply about college baseball, and it's been reignited. It was last year. The attendance this year has been outstanding. The atmospheres are going to be incredible, and you just hope that you kind of feel like you need the building. You need Hauser to will you to the second win. The first one, I feel like we've got a real good shot because Jamie is looking like himself. But after that we, the Vellini start or the Mendez start, might need the fans a little bit here.
Well, if I'm voting, I'm going to tell you they're going to need the fans for the Mendez start.
Vellini has been uneven as well.
A little uneven. He ain't Mendez uneven.
No, of course not. But you could use a little length out of Vellini on Saturday.
Yeah, you could. Did you happen to see our guy John Gruden on Twitter yesterday?
I did.
It's great publicity for Florida State, so whatever level of cheese you found that to be, it is helpful. Now, he rightfully has gone about the process of attempting to rehabilitate his image. He's found the right home for it. He's very good at that aspect of the job. And I think it's smart on his part to cozy up with universities all across the country and have these days where boxes are delivered and you can showcase your knowledge of their history, knowledge of football, knowledge of the players.
How to read the bullet points they send you as well.
Well, true, but I mean, I don't think there's any question. First of all, he did coach Brad Johnson. He did love Jameis Winston. He did love Derek Brooks. And
of course, there were a couple others that were thrown in there. I'm like, really? That specific thing about Florida State's draft success in recent, or like,
okay. Right. There were bullet points, yes. But I think this one was the most convincing of the bunch because he really did have a relationship, again, with the T-Bucks of the world and the Derek Brooks of the world and the Brad Johnsons of the world and the Warwick Dunns of the world. And
and he's talked about what Bowden has meant to the coaching community and to him over the decades as well. So that's real.
Yeah.
That's all the appreciation for the history of the game. First of all, that's Gruden up and down.
Yeah.
He might not appreciate anything else in the world other than the history of football. And yes, I thought it was excellent for the 7 minutes and 20 seconds that it went on. Also, the swag he got sent is fantastic.
And I'm just saying, Florida State, I mean, goodness gracious, I'm often on video.
Well, the best part was he lists, how about this guy? How about that guy? How about Derwin James? How about this knife?
Yeah, that was well played.
Well, we're going to probably isolate that sound.
My favorite part is, how about this knife? I got to be careful. Before we go to break, I just want to tell you that in case you were losing sleep lately, guys, Marquiston Douglas decided not to go into the portal after all. He is back. I know that'll change all of your all's thoughts on the upcoming season. Where is he going to go? Come on, buddy. What are we doing here? Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with. Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachian Parkway.
Whatever you're driving right now, remember it doesn't cost much more to go first class, because you can lease either of Infinity's popular luxury SUVs, the QX50 or the QX60, for around $600 a month with less due at signing than you might think. Only at Infinity of Tallahassee.
Porterman, you're walking crooked again. What happened to you?
Well, I was sitting at the boat ramp sipping on a margarita when my alligator Hank decided we needed to go water skiing.
Oh, no.
Next thing you know, Hank's strapped to 4 skis and I'm hanging on his back and the boat is pulling us out. It was all going great till Hank spotted a duck in the lily pads and wanted to jump the wake.
Porterman, you're crazy. No wonder you got hurt.
Yep, 1 second it's air, water, air, then bam, now I can't even bend over to put on my own water skis.
Well, Florida Man, you better get over to Thin Chiropractic right now. You can book an appointment online and take advantage of the new patient special.
Special offer online? That's easier than wrestling an airboat off a sandbar.
That's right. Just go to thinchiro.com. FENNCHIRO.com. FENNCHIRO.com.
That's it. I'm headed over there boogity to get straightened out.
All right, about that time to upgrade my iPad and my Apple Gear. How much memory do I need? What upgrade should I get? What size screens? How many chargers do I need? USB-C, USB-D, mini USB, USB-B, ABC, 1, 2, 3?
If only there was a local business that can guide you and help you understand what you need and get you the best pricing possible. Oh, wait, that's what they do at Mac & More Systems. Get help buying the right gear for the right price and have it shipped directly to their store for pickup, all at no extra cost. That's the kind of service you won't get at any big box store. Shop local at Mac & More Systems. Find out more online at macandmoresystems.com.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT. Greta Tallahassee. Your sports flash update on Real Talk 93.3 in Tallahassee.
The season is over for the Orlando Magic. They lose to the Boston Celtics yesterday, 120-89 in that first round playoff series, and they end up losing 4-1 in the loss. Franz Wagner had 25 points. Paulo Banchero had 19, but it certainly was not enough. NHL hockey, the Lightning and the Panthers resume their series coming up this evening as Florida will look to clinch the series. They lead the series at 3-1. They're going to have to play without defenseman Aaron Ekblad. He has been suspended for 2 games because of his high forceful elbow to the head of Lightning winger Brandon Hagel on Monday night. Hagel is not going to be available for this game. This Sports Flash is presented by Progressive. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo insurance and save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley on Real Talk 93.3.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just 2 deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks, you know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to make your life a little bit easier. Great. Now raise your other hand if you like to be comfortable. Perfect. Now that you have both hands raised, imagine putting on your shoes. And that, folks, right there is your answer to an easier, more comfortable life. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. This is footwear you don't need your hands to put on. They can be raised in the air, and you can just step it and go. Why don't you experience what people can't stop talking about? Life-changing Skechers Slip-ins. Get your Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Hey, let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes card, ACH, point of sale, mobile, e-commerce, and hosted payment solutions. Tried and True will help you reduce costs and increase your bottom line. That always sounds nice. Whether you're a retailer, restaurant, licensed professional, or service industry, Tried and True is saving you money. Tried and True's expertise extends to payroll, video menu ad boards, IT services, web design, and social media. It's time to make one call and tell the competition to take it on down the road. Call Don or Joe today at 844-464-6653. That's 844-464-6653. When you do business with Tried and True, they contribute 10% of the net revenue to the battle's end. So go Tried and True today. Call 844-464-6653.
Hey, Greg, did you know that some cars are more prone to auto glass damage than others?
I did not know that.
Yeah, a Jeep windshield is flat, making it very prone to damage. Nissan Rogues are popular. Toyotas, Subarus are always in my shop because they get damaged frequently and they require recalibration.
So you guys see a lot of SUVs.
Yeah, I guess the angle of the glass has a lot to do with it.
But it's not like you can avoid a rock no matter what you're driving.
Exactly. So just go to SeminoleAutoglass.com and let us take care of everything for you.
So how often do you see a DeLorean?
From time to time. Better call Seminole.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Florida's capital city. This is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's keep it rolling. Hey, did you see that Seymour Wiener died?
I did.
And I mean this sincerely. I think I was unaware of the phenomena of Seymour Wiener who is a very real person and a sweet old man.
And a hero.
That is correct. I was going to get to it. I'm not ignoring Seymour Wiener's accomplishments. I am only noting that I think the cutest part for people who do not know, Seymour Wiener came to fame very, 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 very late in his life, like last year. And he was a very long time New York Mets fan. And before that, by the way, he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. So he goes way back. And he made news last year when the Mets made Seymour Wiener the veteran of the game on opening day. They do a thing called the veteran of the game. I think seemingly every franchise in the country does. But he was the one that they acknowledged on opening day last year. And as Tom correctly points out, Seymour served during World War II. And you can go read the article on him and his role as a soldier and what he did and et cetera in his life. There was an article that came out in The Athletic at that time because understandably, when they made the announcement, when he was being honored that day, people thought, wait a minute, there's no way this guy's name is actually Seymour Wiener. But it is. It is. And what I think is amazing is that at the time he was interviewed, after becoming kind of nationally known, he said that he'd heard the jokes about his last name all his life, obviously, from the time he was a kid to last year. But he never realized that the Seymour part of that is what made it so much funny. So funny, I should say, not so much more. And it took him into his late 90s to get the joke. Somebody's like, you get why they were laughing. Yeah, my last name's Wiener. No. That's funny. Yeah. Your first name is Seymour. I don't get it. Seymour Wiener. You are Seymour Wiener. Oh! And there is something so adorable about a guy who served in World War II and is now late 90s, just now being let in on the joke. That kind of childlike innocence into your 90s. I had no idea.
After mowing down the enemy.
Think about how crazy that is and how great that is. But they posted a picture to the Mets yesterday. There was a tweet. We are saddened to learn of the passing of Seymour Wiener. And it's a photo of an old man wearing a World War II era Army uniform and a Mets cap, waving to the crowd at the game in 2024. You got it on the screen? There you go. There's Seymour Wiener. Hero. How great is that? Look at that guy. Of course, there's the hot dogs.
Well, because they had a hot dog night in honor of Seymour Wiener.
Yes,
it was actually, my God, how much changes in a year. But it was a year ago today that I was at Citi Field for Seymour Wiener's $1 hot dog night. And I got a lot of them. Everybody did.
Yeah.
It was against the Cubs. It was a cold, I don't know what kind of April they're having up there right now. It's beautiful. Blustery 41 with 25-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, it was a tough night. It was Imanaga versus Manaya. And DJ Stewart hit a home run in the 8th inning to take the lead. And
there you go, DJ.
The game-winning home run from DJ Stewart on Seymour Wiener night. And the $1 hot dogs, they put this is a photo from my own phone. It's on the screen. 44,269, of course, hot dogs were sold that night at Citi Field, and it said, "You made Seymour proud."
I'm
That's
looking
what
at
they
it.
put on all the screens throughout the stadium.
I love it. I'm also reminded, by the way, that we are so entrenched in the era of gambling. Caesars Sportsbook Bettor's Box sits above all that, right?
That's correct. Yes.
That is so cool. Good for the Mets, though. They did the right thing of not just, having fun there. They did point out what the man did in his life and the fact that he was, in addition to being a war hero, yes, a lifelong, decades and decades long baseball fan. And from what I've read, seemed like a solid, really good, regular guy. So rest in peace to Seymour Wiener. That got me to thinking about fan behavior, which I will talk about later, thanks to Tyrese Halliburton's dad, as well as an incident the other day in Cleveland in which the fan has been identified. And how I feel like we're etching closer to a really bad day at the office. It's going to happen. We're going to have a tough go.
There's something more lighthearted from Marlon in the chat that I think you should read.
Delicious Peters. I have a customer whose name is Delicious Peters. It's one thing to have a last name of Peters. I think we've met plenty of Peters. How does delicious happen? That's a fan just that's a parent deciding to have fun like a fan. That's nuts.
That's what my golf coach used to say when I flushed one.
Delicious.
Just like that. As he'd light another cigarette.
I just jumped over into the chat here and saw that people are responding that Jordan Travis is retiring. Do we have confirmation on that? I'm going to assume you wouldn't just post that. It'd be a weird thing to post. You know,
it is from Adam Schefter. You could take it to the bank, not a fake account.
Well, that was given to him by the Jets then, yeah. I'm going to say this now that he is retiring. First of all, good luck to Jordan Travis and whatever it is he does in his future endeavors. Jordan Travis is one of the cool stories that we've had the good fortune of covering and taking in over the last several years. He was a kid who I thought for a good long while he was here was not going to become much of a contributor for Florida State. I thought he was going to be a guy that comes and goes and was thought of as a marginal quarterback who could really run. And thanks to really, really hard work from Jordan Travis, passion, belief, care, attention to detail, unwavering commitment, he made himself something so much better. He became a plus thrower of the football. He became a much better pre-snap evaluator, reader of defenses. He became a dynamic force for the Florida State offense and a Heisman candidate. And I would say in all of my years of covering Florida State, that's 27. Ooh. I'll be Seymour Wiener before you know it. I've never seen a transformation to that extent at that position. I've seen some walk-ons who were, undersized and didn't look like they'd be able to contribute much besides being practice players turn into solid starters. I've seen guys who came in that looked like they might be pretty good college football players who left All-Americans. But it's rare to find a quarterback transform what he is to that extent at the position. So I did, and I acknowledged it at the time. He shocked me. You go back to the, you go back to the first LSU game where he did what he did. And I was really, I remember that night, Tom, you and I talked. I mean, you and I were like, holy moly. I was at the game. You were preparing to do the post game.
I did the watch along.
And I was texting you from the stadium that, look at my man. Look at my man out here. They're throwing the kitchen sink at him, and he's got it all. And so there you go. It was impressive. It was so impressive. And I think it's worth thinking about that now on what today is kind of a sad day, obviously to hear that news that Jordan Travis is going to retire. But I do want to say something else here. And I guess that people are going to, and I don't know, because there's only so much medical information that you're going to have access to or even being allowed to talk about. But I don't think this is the Jets' fault, everybody. I can tell you now, without getting into details, I was really sad. Everybody was. We all know what happened on the night that he broke his leg. It was a terrible set of circumstances. Florida State was playing awful. He felt compelled to run. It's a terrible, unfortunate accident. Now, that said, I do think it was there's no doubt. I mean, this has been talked about quite a bit. I do believe it was a hip, whatever they call it, hip drop. I mean, it does look like a hip drop to me, and I never appreciated that at all. I'm glad we've taken to banning those kinds of tackles. They were legal at the time. It's not cool. You shouldn't do it, but it was legal at the time. Anyhow, it's a hip drop. It leads to that leg being snapped the way that it was. It's sad. But subsequently, what I was told about that situation was that, when as somebody who's broken a few bones, you really root for a break. And you guys know this, and I'm no doctor, and I don't want to pretend to be one. Just my knowledge of, again, having broken a few bones in my life, including my arm twice. You want that to be as clean as possible. You want that to be just a clean break, as opposed to a jagged, fractured, several spots type break. If you just have a clean break, that is much easier to recover from, to heal from, and to come all the way back from. When you have, if it's splintered and jagged and you have some other issues, it can be difficult. We're talking about getting into your nerves and all these other things. At the time, I was told this was not an ideal break. I'll just put it that way. To the extent I don't know, and I wouldn't be allowed to know, but I was told that it was a real problem, and they were very worried for him.
A couple of things I can add to that is he released a personal statement, and it's kind of a cool way to do it. It's a handwritten letter that he took a photo of. So instead of the notes or instead of a graphic, and he's got the pen next to it with his signature. But he says he thanks the Jets and the entire organization. Like, so there's no finger pointing there. But here's the quick statement. On November 18th, 2023, my life and career took an unexpected turn. I gave everything I had to the rehab process, but despite my efforts, my leg never responded the way we hoped. After much prayer and consultation with my doctors and medical team, I have been medically advised to retire from the game I love so deeply. That's just one paragraph of the statement.
I've got it pulled up now. Yeah.
But first of all, that's a heartbreaking paragraph to read, because when you put a date next to something that changes in your life, I mean, it speaks to the gravity of that moment, the way he feels about it. But he's not saying, thanks to this NFL team that rushed me back too fast.
Yeah, no, he's not blaming.
He's saying
the Jets.
from the very beginning of the rehab process. That's what he's putting on the record. Is from the very beginning of the rehab process, this was going to be an uphill climb.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, I also blame. Well, let's put it this way. I shouldn't say that. I would say that actually the reverse is true in terms of people who want to blame the Jets. I actually give a lot of credit to the Jets. They were armed with the medical. These teams vet these guys as thoroughly as you possibly can, every aspect of what you are physically and every aspect of what you are mentally. This is why I was saying it wasn't a fluke that Shedeur Sanders dropped. Teams aren't in the business of trying to teach people lessons. They're trying to win damn games to keep their jobs, their high-paying jobs. So when they evaluate somebody, it's based on, can you help me win? And if the answer is, I'm not so sure, certainly not to a level that we're going to pay you handsomely, then you get drafted later. That's how it goes. Jordan Travis, also a fifth-round draft pick, was a guy that there were a lot of questions about, both prior to the injury, at least from the NFL standpoint, and then certainly post the injury. So it wasn't surprising to see him fall to the fifth round, but kudos to the Jets, who took such stock in his interview and what they knew of the character of this man and work ethic of this man, that they said, look, the medical is not good. We don't like this. This is scary. We're worried that this isn't going to be something he can overcome, but we think he's such a leader. We want him in our locker room. We want him as a long-term project because we have no doubt that he's going to bust his ass. And if he can overcome this injury, and if anybody can, it will be him, because he's not going to take our money and sit around and not work hard, but rather he's going to be a pro's pro and give us everything he has. So when he's in the building, he's making our organization better. When he's not in the building, we know he's rehabbing and trying to get all the way back physically to what he was prior to the injury. We have faith in Jordan Travis, in short. And, ultimately it didn't work out, but I give him a lot of credit. And that's tough. They did. They took a chance on him because of his character and the upside if he was able to recover. Clearly he could not. Wish him well. He's going to get a job somewhere. I hope if he wants it to be in sports, it'll be in sports, and he'll work hard and do well there.
I think so. I'll remember a few things of his career specifically, one of which is that first media day that he went to with Mackenzie Milton, and how he stood back in awe of watching Mackenzie work the room and the media scrums. There were a couple of moments where he just sat back and he had this wry grin on his face. And it wasn't out of jealousy. It was out of admiration. Like, he was learning. He was taking notes on how to handle that particular part of what his future responsibilities would be. And it wasn't a full season before he took that job. But I juxtapose that to the interview he did with you and with others at the ACC kickoff in the next couple of years. And he was a totally different guy in front of the media. And it started there. In addition to that, the through line of the LSU game in the Superdome was one practice he had in the spring of that year, one practice he had in the fall of that year where he could not miss. And no matter what the defense threw at him, he had an answer for everything. He didn't always practice brilliantly, but he had a couple of truly perfect, brilliant practices in 11-on-11 settings that left us all with our jaws on the grass as we walked out of there getting ready for interviews. It wasn't always that way, but there were little signs. There were days like, oh, that's in you?
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, that's what was in him with regularity as he played on Saturdays.
Yeah, so shout out to Jordan Travis, and I wish him nothing but the best. I'm sure we'll see him around, and who knows? He might get into coaching, may end up back here at some point if that's his wish. I don't know, but we'll always have nothing but great thoughts about Jordan Travis and his career at Florida State. Sad ending to a brilliant career and a very good player. Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Do you have spring fever? Your only prescription is the Lawn Johns. Hi, it's Mark from the Lawn Johns. We can make your landscape more appealing by providing you with award-winning lawn care. With 4 levels of service, the Lawn Johns offers you more choices than the rest. More flowers, more mulch, or more pine straw all means that your home or office will be more beautiful than ever. So if you've got spring fever, go to thelawnjohns.com or just look for our big purple truck.
I gotta have more cowbell.
Whidden Glass has been taking care of business since 1945. When you call Whidden Glass, you're dealing with experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best. Like Whidden's top-of-the-line bath enclosures that provide style and luxury at an affordable price. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Whidden Glass. We'll help you design it and install it. Whidden Glass, the first name in glass replacement. Call 222-5781.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did. When you need the plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to wait?
Hey guys, we really need you over here. My toddler just flushed a whole bunch of toys down the toilet, and everything, and I mean everything, is backing up.
2 hours?
Hey guys, just checking in. The water has reached the hallway now, and it's getting pretty deep. Can you get here anytime soon?
4 hours?
Hey guys, can you please hurry? Now my wiener dog is doing the backstroke over here, and they're not known to be strong swimmers. Hey honey, grab his life jacket.
8 hours?
Oh, so now you're here.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service right when you need it. Our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. And now M&L Plumbing can also be your go-to for all septic tank pump-out services. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing. Your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or online at mnlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Rolling on, and again, sad news for those of you just tuning in. I don't want to treat it like it's a death or anything, but Jordan Travis announcing today he has retired from the National Football League. I'm sure we'll hear from Jordan. If you go to his Twitter account, you'll see his post. Tom described it, handwritten letter there. You can read more than just some of the cursory highlights that Tom and I pointed out, but announcing that he's calling it a day. Too much to overcome with the leg injury. So we wish Jordan Travis well. Let's get back to topics at hand. We were talking about Florida State earlier, and one of the things that ends up happening when we talk Knowles, who did sign an offensive lineman, got a commit from an offensive lineman today. The young man out of Rutgers says, I'm in. Jalen Matthews. Is it Jalen or Jalen?
Could be Jalen.
Could be Jalen. Brutally misspelled. You can spell your name any way that you want. Some people say Jeffrey's misspelled. My name is Jeffrey Cameron. It's Jeffery.
Jeffery.
Yeah. So you could. That's not mean. I'm just saying that's an interesting way to spell Jalen Matthews. But he is an old. And look, I don't ever get upset about offensive linemen being signed. That is a 6'5", 300+ pound man from Jersey. Hope he's got some what for like people from Jersey, right?
I think he went to Don Bosco. Like basically anybody who's a good athlete from Jersey goes to Don Bosco. That'd be my assumption. I'll take a look though.
Yeah, he's got that's size for days. Can you imagine poor high school kids having to go up against that?
It's Tom's River North. Never mind.
Yeah.
That's the land of good Little League baseball. One of the great sports in America, Little League baseball. Tom's River, New Jersey.
As long as it's not televised.
That's correct.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. When it's televised, it's ruined quickly. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow watching that.
Well, but that's the one thing we talked about last week. Somehow the parents from those events have turned into the athletes of today. The parents from the old Little League games where we would laugh at decades ago. That's now what players act like.
Frequently.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I hate it. You watch those young men, and you can tell they've grown up in an era of the camera, and everything becomes sort of a shtick. Occasionally, you get some funny ones, though. You'll get a moment where, it turns into an internet meme because it's a kid about, talking about hitting bombs who's way too big for his age.
Right. I hit dingers.
Yeah, that's always good. What do we think the over-under is? Mike wouldn't put the over-under on a specific number today when he addressed the press. How many guys do you think they end up bringing in?
Man, It could be a significant number. What are we at currently? 2? No, 3.
3. Jalen King is the East Tennessee State quarterback. Jeremiah Wilson is the cornerback. Now, Jeremiah Wilson, unlike Matthews and King, Wilson looks like a kid who they're bringing in to start.
Correct. And they said that, ideally they want to redshirt King, and then clearly they don't want Matthews to play right away. He's a high school
19 years old. Yeah. Yeah, you're bringing. Sorry, we keep doing this, but Jeremiah Wilson is a senior, as everybody, just for people who don't know, and led their conference in interceptions. So he's being field corner brought in to start, basically.
Out the door. I think last week I might have said 4.5. I set the over under. Probably now 6.5, 7.5. I mean, they're hosting a lot of kids, so you have to. I don't think they're trying to do that to have 3 kids compete for one spot. I think they're bringing in a lot of these different aged prospects, underclassmen, upperclassmen, to all potentially say yes. So maybe 6 or 7.
I think it's interesting. I know the piece on warchant.com Ira wrote, there's a sentence in there that I thought, that's fascinating. While wide receiver is one of the primary positions Florida State has been looking to address through the transfer portal, Norvell said that's not really a result of the recent departures of Hakeem Williams, Jalen Brown, and Jordan Scott. Knowles had 13 receivers on the roster going into the spring, and he said that was more than they allotted for the position. But I do think that it speaks to a lack of quality depth. When you say you had too many players, you in essence push people out the door, again, under the guise of having too many, and yet immediately turn around and try to bring a couple in. Which is it?
That's a fair question, I think. Yes.
So, yeah, I don't think it was too many.
It's a simple question, Professor.
I don't think it was too many. I think it was too sorry. I think that's what he was trying to say. We got way too many sorry receivers. We're trying to bring in some non-sorry receivers.
Is that where journalistically you'd expect the parentheses to be in there to add the meaning to the quote? Would you have done that with with your coverage outlet? Would you have added parentheses? Yeah.
Too sorry.
Sorry.
Just too many sorry wide receivers. Yeah. Not too many in total. Too many sorry wide receivers. That probably would have been considered crossing the line. That's an editorial that is not what the coach said, what I'm inferring, what I think he's saying. Yeah.
Coach Johnny Ray Jones would agree with you.
Yeah, Coach Johnny Ray Jones, he said it. He meant sorry.
I know what he said.
Johnny Ray Jones would have read the piece by Jeff Cameron and been like, damn right, glad you said it. We both know. So does he. That's why he's bringing in guys to get rid of the sorry ones. Well, yeah, it's a point of contention. It's very frustrating. But they kind of talked as if they expected to lose some guys and that they're hoping to bring in, and to me, here I do parentheses again, better ones. They're hoping to bring in better ones. Yes, I still remain a little bit baffled at the idea that they want to bring in a tight end. The kid from Ole Miss. Help me understand this.
Well, is that a continued interest now that Biscuit has gone in and out?
Do we really think that Biscuit's coming or going made any damn difference to anybody?
I think there's a specific role that he potentially could fit that none of the other guys could. Why would you have brought him in the first place? Like, months ago.
You think just being an inline blocker, and he wasn't even that good at that.
No, I think that by him accepting the second assignment at Florida State, not this third one that he has since accepted in the last 24 hours, I think him accepting the second assignment was made clear to him. You need to lose weight and care about blocking. If not, you can go somewhere else. So I think he would get the message.
I wonder,
because Gus lines him up everywhere. Otherwise, Pittman could be, we saw last year at UCF. Pittman could be lined up anywhere. Landon Thomas' body type can be lined up anywhere. Chase Lofton's more of a receiver type early in his career. Amari Williams may be in line, maybe, because he obviously has to have the skills to play defensive line, so you would think there'd be some crossover skill set there.
Yeah, but what you want is interchangeable personnel. You don't want to make it a dead giveaway. And so, to me, bit rough. You're saying to yourself, well, anytime this guy comes in, you guys know what's coming.
A seam route play action. I always thought when Jimbo, for example, back in the day, Bo Relaford was the number 1 receiving tight end. But if you ever saw Will Tye out there, like, man, this is a pass. I'm not even thinking this is a run.
Yeah, there's
this
no
is a play
chance.
action.
Yeah.
This is a delayed screen or a drag from Will Tye. He's going to be wide the hell open. I'm on to you, Jimbo. And a lot of times it was.
I'll tell you what, I do love there's that throw that is made to Bo Relaford on the far sideline.
North Carolina.
The mesh route. That throw is as good a throw as you could ever make. That's where you're like, ooh, that's it. Those kinds of throws made Ponder a lot of money.
100%. It's funny you say that because I was talking with Gene Williams yesterday about maybe some off-season features, and he thinks that, going back into the COVID playbook and grabbing a couple of those war chats, I think you might have done a couple of those with some of the players who were in those key games. And I said, well, what about a Ponder conversation? So, well, we did 2010 Florida. What else would you just say? The Thursday night comeback against North Carolina. That was, I know it's not a rivalry game, but that was a tale of two halves. We were dead, buried, and furious at halftime.
And then came back and looked sensational. You had the long touchdown pass.
Yep, to Rod Old
School Owens, buddy.
He was perfect in the second half. I totally agree. That half made him so much money.
That half put on film something he had never shown before, and I think it changed his trajectory in the NFL draft forever. And for those that don't remember, go back and look at the throw I'm talking about. The Ponder throw to Relaford to the far side. It's an NFL throw through and through. That's the kind of throw they show you on NFL Sundays as an example of what makes these guys different. It's like, look at that throw. Have you seen the video? We got to go to break, but have you seen the video yet of Brady reliving his 5? He's asked, what are some of the best throws you ever made in NFL history? In your career? And he's driving and he's talking to this guy and he's like, yeah, I can. And he starts naming them. They're awesome. And they show it to you. They show you the throws and you're like, a couple of them there, you're like, that's insane. That throw's ridiculous.
Was any of them in a Bucs uniform?
No. And he had a couple.
The Jets comeback was the one.
Yeah.
That final throw he delivers against the Jets, I did sound like a 14-year-old.
You're like,
I think you're awesome, Tom Brady. What was that?
Well, golly, he made ridiculous throws the year before when he was in New England to beat us in Tampa.
Yeah, those, yeah.
Throw after throw. It's like, this is ridiculous. You're still gunslinging out here, man.
That night, you think he's got 15 years left.
It was unreal. No, there's a throw down the seam to Gronk, and I think it's in the 2017 season, where they show you what he's talking about. He's like, I really probably shouldn't have made the throw, but it's unreal. The safety is right there. The linebacker's out, and you have a window quite literally the size of this computer, and it has to be perfect, and it is on a rope. One of them's to Randy Moss on the far sideline against the Steelers. And he's like, yeah, it landed like a butterfly with tired legs. Just perfect. They show the shot. It's the furthest side of the field, so he's wide side. And it is a deft 60-yarder that just, like, you couldn't drop it. It would be impossible. If you ran up and placed it in Randy Moss's hands, you couldn't have placed it any better. It's dumb.
Well, we all know what Ponder's best throw was, though. You remember it.
Oh, against USF, and it's called back because of the penalty on a day that we end up losing.
At 122 degrees.
It was one of the hottest days ever. There was a fight in the locker room beforehand because I don't want to get into this.
That's true. But it's worth chewing on. I'm going to do so during the break. I don't know if it's worth coming back with.
Finding the throw where he's rolling against his body and 55 yards downfield.
Well, I'm sure we could find that, but just the best throws I've seen a Florida State quarterback make. There's a lot of candidates.
Well, Travis, the year before he was great, had several in the basket on the side down the sideline.
Miami comeback.
Yeah.
Even the 4th and 14 throw to
the Chris Ricks throw? Or are you talking about the second, 4th, and 14th?
Yeah, the second one. Yeah. No, the first one, Dominic knows all about. He caught it.
Yeah, I know.
No, the second one was it Parchment?
Yeah, and that's a laser
It's anticipatory too.
Well,
Now,
he comes back
he
to the
sees
ball.
the safeties. He's like, all right, well, this has got to be.
Yeah.
But that needed to be what it was, and it was a friggin' seed.
That's a fun game. I was in the stands with my dad and my son, my oldest son, for that game, and just being a fan and watching Miami choke that away, watching us come through with that. Yeah.
In a way, having that play, move the chains, and then you run another one from the half-yard line is more satisfactory because you have to live with it if you're a Canes fan for longer.
You just got to wear it.
You just got to wear it
We
for
just
another
gave
minute
that up.
with that minuscule hope that maybe we'll fumble the snap.
Well, and just knowing also that because there's another play, the clock's going to – I mean, there's all the things. You're like, no, just get in the end zone already.
Right.
Yeah, still love it. I'm supposed to tell you about our friends at Pinch a Penny, and I lost my copy. But you can have the floating guy out there. I'll get to it.
The floating guy, he's floating away from the 5-seater in his happiness right there, the Pentagon.
Great. There he is. Pinch a Penny Pool and Spas. Where did you go? You ran
They're
from
Green
me.
Road. They
They're
haven't
Green
moved.
Street. They're right there. I know where they are. I just can't find them. Come on, Pinch a Penny. Stop running.
Right next to that golf store.
On sale now. Price to fly out the door of the Pentagon, buddy. Hot Spring Pace Model 5-seater. Reduced to $8,500. And I'm told recently for all of the fitness buffs, they're going to start doing the ice baths. They've got these permanent ones you put in your backyard. You set up, you jump in the ice bath. They sell those too. The largest collection of them in town. How about that?
That's apparently really good for you.
Yeah, I've done it, Tom. I can't bring myself to do it with any degree of consistency. I hate it. I mean, people do it, and some of them are better at it than me. I think Gene Williams does them all the time. It's rough. I hated it when I was playing football, and
Do
they
you
make us get
feel
it.
refreshed after?
Yeah.
You feel what the people say about the nervous system being rebooted and refreshed?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel better when you come out. You're like, woo, brisk. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure over time. Yeah, cold plunges. You're right. They're called cold plunges. Ice baths, cold plunges. They are called cold plunges, Mario. They sell them, these kick-ass cold plunges. They sell those. They're not tubs, but maybe they are tubs. Over there at Pinch a Penny off of Greer Road. So go check them out. I'm sure if it's like everything else, they have a massive selection. That building is fun. Go in that building. You're like, holy moly, I didn't know something this big existed right here. Because it's deceptive. When you see it from the road, you don't think anything of it. What you see is all those power tools and things like that out front. And you're like, I wonder if they sell a green egg. And you're like, oh, there's the Pinch a Penny place. I should go in there. And then you go in and you're like, whoa, it's massive. It's awesome. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
A Quincy man is dead after an early Sunday morning shooting.
Check it out. Look at that. This is from my friends at Huel. I'm going to tell you a little story about Huel. Huel is obviously paying for this advertisement, which is great. There's no shame in that. They recognize the popularity of the great Jeff Cameron Show, and they want to be a part of it. And for that, I'm grateful. But I was drinking Huel. I was having Huel shakes, Tom, in the morning 2 years ago. I came across it one day when I was researching nutrition because I don't do well in the mornings. I don't eat breakfast all that often, and I know that I need to. And I never really feel hungry, but I know I need, obviously, the nutrients that come with eating a balanced breakfast, something that's good for you, a meal, if you would. And this is a meal in a bottle. That's what this is. It is unbelievable what you get with this. It is packed with nutrients that your body needs. This is no prep, no cooking. I'm out the door, and it tastes good. It's affordable. It's delicious. And right now, new customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use my code. My code is Warchant. You're going to want to do this today. Mornings can be chaos in a lot of our houses. I understand that. You're out the door. You realize you haven't put together a balanced meal. Huel will do that for you. You drink it, you're on the go. And here's the thing, you feel full and you're ready to go. Go again to Huel.com. Use my code WARCHANT. You'll get 15% off. New customers, 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use my code WARCHANT.
877-6418. 877-6418.
There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like families. There's different families. And,
so there's if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch
or the Yeti, right?
Yeah,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And
never heard that one. By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Yeah, I got into, not a debate, a discussion, but I see it now on the boards here, and I see it in the chat. This is every day. This will be the summer, right? Everybody debating, when to fire Mike, should they fire Mike? Who do we get after Mike? All that stuff. And I would tell you that that does beg the larger question that we were avoiding when we were talking about the micro right now, earlier in the show, which is who's the pool you're hiring from, and what would necessitate that as opposed to, say, investing that money into the roster that you usually bring up. That's your point. Like, well, why don't we save the money on paying Mike off and invest in the roster?
Yeah, I said that about the Jumbotron. I get that we want the experience for the people, but isn't there a way we could back channel those dollars? I know they can't officially do that, but I mean, we could say, I'm thinking, Mose, we love this sponsorship you have. We want to charge you $10 million less. But what you're going to do is unite your brand with the Battle's End for $10 million more. They couldn't move it around that way. Anyway.
I think that when you have this discussion, you're really looking at a bigger picture thing here about what would facilitate that. There's the obvious stuff. If he doesn't vastly improve on 2 and 10, he'll get fired, because at some point you cross the bridge and you can't get back. It's that you have to. It's a sunk cost, and you just move on because nobody's coming to the games. Because that's what would happen. You'd start having empty. We've been here. We've seen it. I mean, we know when it happens. It's a dark day, buddy, to walk in that stadium when the fans have said, I've had enough. And you walk in there, and they can't afford that now. They've just spent all of this money. So
I call that undergrad.
Yeah, that's a tough go. I mean, there have been many times over the years where you walk in and you go, oh, man, the people have spoken. They're done. There's 30,000 empty seats here. So then that facilitates the move.
Or half of them are wearing all black.
Yeah,
on Bobby's birthday.
Right. That's when that facilitates the move. But I said before, the only way you would do it now, and I've been avid about this. If in any other era, going 2 and 10 would get you fired. You would deserve to be fired. You could say it's a fireable offense, but obviously circumstances are a little different right now.
Because we're poor.
Well, we're poor, and there were also this era of college football is strange, where we see these disparate results that are unlike anything we've seen before, where a program could win 12 games, turn around, and obviously lose 10 the next year, or you see a team go from traditionally awful to 11-1. You see it happen at Indiana just last year. We've seen even Michigan being the reigning national champions and losing 5 games. So we're seeing a very seismic shift, I would say, in what can happen year over year.
Let's revise that very quickly. We're cash poor. I mean, we're poor.
Right.
We're cash poor.
But I think what you're weighing is, are you incapable? Because who are you hitting up to pay off Mike's buyout. The same people that you'd hit up for A, money for players, and B, a new coach. And I don't know that we're deep enough, man. I don't know we have those kinds of pockets. Now, again, there is a result that your hands are tied. You got to do it. If he's under 500 this year, you have to fire him. Whether you have the money or not, you have to fire him. Because the stadium will be empty. And there's long-term damage that is done if you don't fire him in that moment. But, yeah, I mean, if he goes 8-4, he's not going to get fired, and I wouldn't fire him either if he goes 8-4. And if he goes 7-5, I could think he should be fired, but they're probably not going to fire him. I think anything worse than that, they will.
I can't wait for all those Dead Man Walking shows in 2026 if he goes 7-5. Good Lord. I'm just going to put a sign behind you.
You could say that he's that now. There's an argument to be made that he's that now.
I think our rivals would make that argument, and they're happy that we're stuck in a period where somebody's a dead man walking. I think that's what, if I was sitting in our rivals' chair as a Florida fan or a Miami fan, I'd be like, well, they're stuck. They're screwed. I mean, we said the same thing about Billy last year.
I was just about to say, people thought that about Billy last year, and he won 7 games with the toughest schedule I've ever seen.
Now, he's got that same schedule, just with home and away dates flipped this year. But that goes to show you that you can turn in a season where that 7-5 looks different than we imagined what 7-5 would look like for him. Even though before the season started, we said 7-5 would be a heavy lift, but I mean, that's not going to work long term. By the end of the year, there was a feeling around that program that even we had to acknowledge, which was, well, I mean, he was on life support and he's kind of back now. Like he's got a fair crack at it with Lagway this season. If it
because
works
he's done a good job in recruiting.
Well, that helped.
This is where Mike has a hard time, because if you want to defend Mike, you'd say, well, he has won. He had a 19-game win streak. We won the conference again, had an undefeated regular season. Okay, yes, but he also engineered 2-10, and oh, by the way, he doesn't recruit. And the only thing Billy ever had going for him was that, like, they were still getting players
somehow, some way,
because he's good at recruiting, and we're not right now. And that's something that's got to change and in a hurry. And again, I would maintain that it's hard to recruit coming off a 2-10. That's not an excuse. That's the reality. It's really hard to recruit off a 2-10 when you don't demand it of your assistant coaches and you're not good at it yourself. And this is why people are citing specific examples of, like, how do you not get this kid that's right in your backyard? Why is the Thomas County kid leaving? By the way, I would argue you don't have to go to Thomas County to look at the edge who went to Cal. You can go to Jalen Wiggins, who was at Rickards, that went to Florida and was a stud. And they totally whiffed on that recruiting. Son of a bitch.
Well, he didn't just want to leave Tallahassee?
No, they didn't recruit properly. Fact. We lost a stud in our backyard. Not the first. They have a track record. They have issues. This is why people get angered even more so, even the ones that want to give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, this is where you apply the rhetoric about work and practice to the heavy lifting that is recruiting. You got to want to put in the work.
You really do.
You're demanding of it of your players on a day-to-day basis. If you bring that energy to the trail, then perhaps you see results change, because this is a brand still. Like, you know, I see that conversation going on. I was more worried at the end of the lost decade about Florida State slipping into Nebraska-ness or Miami-ness than I am right now. I'm less worried now.
Well, because we won. We won the suit against the ACC.
Right.
We have a get out of jail free card, which is going to the Power 2. But now I would argue you better remain somewhat relevant.
Of course, yes. You can't try to break the system, But the safety net that you have. But since that time, you pointed this out. You know, you have a second head coach go the distance. Well, now we've had 2 different head coaches post Bobby turn in a 12-0 season. So, I'm less worried about.
That was
crisis.
Really good for FSU to do from a standpoint of legacy and what they are. They're not a one-trick pony. They're not a one-coach party.
So I'm not worried about the program in that long term. Somebody's going to win here. I'd like it to be Mike, and if they approach the trail the way he talks about approaching practice, and maybe if he can forge new habits the way seemingly he has, these are the reports he's giving us in spring camp, if he can turn something from, I just don't understand why we're not respecting the process in the program, you bring that energy to recruiting, and maybe in the summertime, you start to see some results.
Yeah, maybe. There are people who believe, though, that you get a window. You get a very brief window to kind of cash in the new car smell that comes with being a new head coach. Now, he was screwed by COVID with that, but he got a reprieve because he did turn around a losing program and win at 10 straight in that end of that regular season, and then turned around and won 12 in a row. And so anyhow, we go back to the whole 19-game winning streak, 2-year run.
Yeah,
it was another opportunity. It was another window into that. And what's frustrating, he didn't cash it in. And now Florida State's not a destination for the top recruits. And they're especially not because they went 2-10 last year. So how quickly can that turn around?
I think things are so fickle that you can get them back by turning in quick results and then spending aggressively. I think those two things can help.
Yeah, it begins with winning. You're right about that.
It can help flip it quick.
Year.
But if you overpay the suck tax and then you win some football games, you could flip it quicker. But you gotta want to. That's the problem.
It has to be everything you are every day right now. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to keep him around here for any length of time. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with.
The best happy hour in the city is at Café de Martín and El Bar. All day, every day, you can find great deals at Café de Martín while enjoying the best outdoor seating Tallahassee has to offer. Sip away on 2-for-1 house wines, chilcanos, and margaritas all day long, Monday through Thursday. Plus 2-for-1 pisco sours and margaritas on Fridays and Saturdays, and 2-for-1 mimosas for Sunday brunch. Come join us at Café de Martín, where every hour is happy hour, in the Esposito Shopping Center on Capitol Circle Northeast.
Ain't nothing but a G-Pod, baby.
I am 99% sure that is not how the lyrics go.
Well, you like remixes, right?
Of course.
Well, think of this as a Grassroots Coffee remix per se, because Grassroots Coffee is now in the single-serve coffee pod game.
Dude, those single-serve coffee pods and cups are weak sauce.
Not Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. They have more coffee in them than regular single-serve pods and cups.
Seriously?
And not only do they have more coffee, they have a built-in filter for better brewing. They fit in most Keurig machines, and they are fully compostable.
It's still the small batch, slow roasted coffee you love, so go to grassrootscoffee.com and get your box of G-Pods today.
Baby!
See? Remix!
Well, actually, that's more of an homage.
Grassroots Coffee, locally owned, locally roasted, and made for everyone, loved everywhere.
Grassroots Coffee G-Pods. So very good.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-743-8080. That's 1-800-743-8080. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-743-8080. That's 1-800-743-8080.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee. This is Real Talk 93.3.
More of the Jeff Cameron Show is coming up next. Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas.
The NASCAR Cup Series race at the Texas Motor Speedway, the Worth 400. Kyle Larson is a 5-1 favorite. William Byron 6-1. Tyler Reddick plus 750. Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin are both 8-1. Ryan Blaney 9-1. Drew Rasmussen on the mound today for the Tampa Bay Rays, another 85 favorite against Noah Cameron of the Royals plus 154. 8.5 flat the total at Steinbrenner Field. Braves yesterday 8-2 over the Rockies. They have dropped 8 straight. Chris Sale on the bump today for Atlanta. He's a $2.45 favorite against Chase Dominant of the Rockies plus 200. 10 over the total at Coors Field. $250 bonus and you open up a GBank Visa signature card. Visa.com/GBank. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
Lowe's helps refresh your garden in time for Mother's Day. Right now, get 4 bags of 1.5 cubic foot Scott's Naturescapes mulch for just $10. Plus, select 1.5 gallon annuals hanging baskets make the perfect gift. Now 2 for only $15. The best garden starts with great deals. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/7. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just 2 deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks. You know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
Did you know backup generators often lack the power needed to start an AC unit? Installing an Easy Flag soft starter from E&B Heating and Air can reduce startup current by 75%, allowing your AC to run without a larger, more expensive generator. Visit EMBHeatingandAir.com for more info.
Teeth Park Enterprises, roofing and construction services. Teeth Park. TeeSparkConstruction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-1340. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark. TeeSparkConstruction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
Porterman, you're walking crooked again. What happened to you?
Well, I was sitting at the boat ramp sipping on a margarita when my alligator Hank decided we needed to go water skiing.
Oh, no.
Next thing you know, Hank's strapped to 4 skis and I'm hanging on his back and the boat is pulling us out. It was all going great till Hank spotted a duck in the lily pads and wanted to jump the wake.
Porterman, you're crazy. No wonder you got hurt.
Yep, one second it's air, water, air, then bam, now I can't even bend over to put on my own water skis.
Well, Porterman, you better get over to Thin Chiropractic right now. You can book an appointment online and take advantage of the new patient special.
Special offer online? That's easier than wrestling an airboat off a sandbar.
That's right. Just go to thinchiro.com. FENNCHIRO.com. FENNCHIRO.com.
That's it. I'm headed over there boogity to get straightened out.
Injured? Call attorneys who care. Basic Brooks. Offices, Tallahassee.
Remember, if you don't have anything nice to say it really, really loud. This is Real Talk 93.3. Live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
let me recap for those of you just tuning in, maybe just jumping in your car. You're like, it's a day. I'm done with work. I'm getting in the car. I'm out of here. Let me flip on Cameron. Jordan Travis retires from professional football today. Unfortunate news there. The leg injury turns out to be too much, and in the end, it is his career that comes to a halt rather abruptly. I felt like he was working hard to get back. Certainly everybody was rooting for that, but he announces today that because of the injury he suffered at the end of his time here at Florida State and the inability to get back to where he needs to be, he is going to retire. So we wish Jordan Travis well. We talked about it at length at the start of last hour. You want to hear that, you can go back and find it. Obviously, we'll post the pod at the end of the show. Obviously, you can always go back on YouTube and watch the show. Many ways by which to get caught up. Also made mention that Florida State continues to be active in the portal. Florida State signing an offensive tackle. Young man who spent just a few months, 19 years old, spent just a few months with Rutgers before deciding to come to Tallahassee. So Florida State is out there actively pursuing quite a bit of depth, I think, in the portal at this point. Jalen Matthews, now a Nole. He's a big kid. They should have him for multiple years. Let's hope they can develop him. Mike Norvell meeting with the press this morning, addressing post-spring. This is the official post-spring wrap, which was not something that they could do because of the tragedy on campus. They cut short spring football, understandably, and that included the normal end of the spring press conference. So Mike had it today, talked about the new proposals to increase the number of roster spots, scholarship players, and thus Florida State is continuing to look to add to the roster. And I say it's a good sign. I also say, well, I think it's a good sign to be aggressive. I do think it also is telling that they're looking to go out and get more players, because I don't think that they left spring feeling like they were complete, certainly not from a depth chart standpoint. So they're going to remain active there. As for everything else, it kind of was a standard operating procedure. Today, the last day of April, we've almost made it together to May. You know, the heavy lifting, it's being done right now. We get into May, buddy. Big weekend coming up to distract us with Florida State baseball against Clemson. Hopefully a few more names that are acquired in the portal that provide the requisite depth to compete and handle any injuries that occur in football. You know, these are the little things. Currently, the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, these are the things that get you through. But it always feels like, just like it was with the draft, that most of the time, the coming months, May tomorrow, by the way, are treading water to get to football. That's what this is. And in many ways, different from others, but many ways, this upcoming season will have no shortage of real intrigue and, I think, more than anything else, lasting impacts on the program. And that's why there is a tension surrounding this offseason that is going to be omnipresent through the summer months.
Yeah, I think it's going to have lasting impacts, and it's obvious to say this, on Mike Norvell's tenure here.
Oh, without question. Yeah.
For the program itself, man, the major story that has been written so far this year is the settlement with the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And we covered it, at length, but that's something that's only going to grow in scope the farther we get away from it. You know, talking about the history of Florida State athletics and this program and where it eventually finds itself in football, what the home conference is or what the home division is, in case they pull this thing away and they make it its own sport that has its own set of rules and parameters and payments in the next few years. What we saw in March is going to be a humongous story. It only gets larger as time goes on. But for what happens over the next few months, every decision is about trying to add just incremental. If you're looking at it like a math problem, just incrementally improving your win share, your probability to get that 8th win, to maybe sneak up to an 8.4, an 8.5, 8.6, just to scare a 9-3 record. What can we do to scare 9-3 and win one of those high profile games this season?
Yeah. You know, oddly, I would say to you that the fan base is mired in the debate about Mike. That'll happen when you go 2-10. Mike doesn't exactly catch any breaks either, because in a weird sort of way, I had 3 texts come to me last hour during the show from friends, some of them mutual, And if you're just going to take a cursory glance at the reaction to Jordan Travis retiring today, you're going to say that it's a fan base that just received yet another kick in the cojones because he is beloved. And the news just mounts time and again against Florida State in a way that is just unsettling, right? And in some ways, completely unfairly in others. Mike gets the blame for that too. People are like, damn it, man. Why wasn't our offense any good at the end of that year? Why were we losing by 2 touchdowns to that sorry-ass team? Why did Jordan feel like he had to run to get something going because you didn't put together an offense that could get a first down against that team on senior day? I'm telling you, that's the reaction to a large contingent in this fan base today. That's one more thing to be pissed at Mike about. And I know Mike would hear that and be like, really? I'm catching strays because Jordan Travis got hurt and 2 years later retires? Yep, buddy, you are.
Yeah, that's where us wearing multiple hats is it's an interesting exercise because we're media, we're fans. We also both have an affinity for PR. That's why there's the PR firm. So when Mike says something like he did last week or the week before, and he was talking about how the program had that edge, had that intensity, because when they were down double digits in many games, including to a couple of FCS opponents over the last couple of years, my immediate public relations mind, not fan, not media,
was don't say that.
Never remind people about that day.
Yes, correct.
Even if it's to add to your argument, that is as a place we do not go. Because I, like you, can remember standing on the 7th floor of Hotel Indigo overlooking the stadium before senior night. I remember something snapped us out of our stupor of just how beautiful the evening was. The weather was finally turning.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Mastromano got named, and he was given the roses during the senior day ceremony. His name wasn't initially on the list. I remember going, oh, is he leaving? He was covering his bases in case he would leave. And in fact, he'd come back. But we were just remarking on, wow, look at what he's done. Look at all the work that has been done to make this something that it hadn't been in a long time. And then 45 minutes later, Jordan's leg snaps, and it starts this whole process.
They were impotent on offense. Again, they couldn't run the ball. And yeah, no, I would not remind everybody of that. I mean, that'd be akin to holding a press conference and you're like talking about what you're trying to overcome and proceeding to say, well, it was a tough season last year. It started with the 24-21 loss in Ireland to Georgia Tech. It was followed up by a bitter disappointment, 28-13 at home against Boston College with the nation watching. Seems so often we were the singular event in college football at the time that the games were played early in the year. We followed that up by a very bitterly disappointing home loss to Memphis, 20-12. We got a shot in the arm, 14-9, beating Cal. Looked like we were willing to fight, but then immediately that was offset by our 42-16 loss to SMU. And just as you were hurting and thinking there was very little chance, you were somewhat toyed with, especially in the red zone, in the defeat to Clemson, 29-13. But you thought we'll bounce back, and we went on the road to Duke and fell 23-16. Turned the ball over repeatedly. In fact, in back-to-back-to-back plays, it was something to behold. We decided to rally around one another at that point and take on our arch rivals in the University of Miami, where we fell 36-14. Another disappointment.
A lot of jogging.
North Carolina didn't have a lot going for it at the time they came into Tallahassee. Had lost a few in a row. It made no difference. They won 35-11 that day against us. Not a very competitive football game. And then against a tradition-laden bunch in South Bend, our fan base traveled, including Jeff Cameron and his family, to sit and cheer on their beloved Noles and watch 52-3 Irish. Many of those same fans were teased and mocked as they left the stadium. 20 degrees. 52-3 will hurt your feelings. It's all right. We got a big win the following week over Charleston Southern, 41-7. Maybe we would rally against our arch rival Florida. That was not to be. We lost at home 31-11. So the season was disappointment, guys. That's what you wouldn't do. You wouldn't go through all of the games and remind everybody of those scores. You wouldn't tell them about all of the things that went wrong and just how ugly the season was. You wouldn't do that, Tom, is what you're saying as a PR guy.
No, certainly I wouldn't mention Memphis either, considering, measuring stick of how the program I left is doing versus how I'm doing.
Yeah, but it wasn't lost on me today when the last hour we saw the news about Jordan Travis, and then one by one I began to get texts from people who don't even know each other going, "This pisses me off at Mike again." I'm like, well, I don't know how fair that is, but I get it. It's another kick.
Well, look, this is one thing. I really do appreciate the assignment and the responsibility of doing the post-game show, because for all of these moments, I can remember the emotion of how everybody felt, myself included, for first and foremost myself, because you always remember your own memories, of in real time what it felt like. That's good for the ACC championship a couple of years ago. That was the most fun post-game show ever, because we hadn't known what was coming the next day. We could not know what was coming less than 12 hours from that moment. Fun show. The one where Jordan breaks his leg, that was a funeral show. Even though we still had goals in front of us, and Florida State did finish the undefeated run, and they did win the ACC championship in defiance of that injury, there was anger. I mean, every stage of grief was happening in that postgame show. And a lot of it was anger about how in the world did we need him to do that. But we kind of did need him to do that. To run his own body out there after we protected him, with tissue paper. We handled him. It was only the second half of the Duke game, outside of the second quarter against Clemson, where you felt like he might get hurt, where we ran him a ton. There was maybe 3 games that whole season.
So you had to break it out. You wore him out. You wore Duke out because of it. Yeah.
I think they got scared second half LSU because he ran a joker over inside the 20-yard line when we're up 3 touchdowns. You're like, hey, man, that's awesome, but you can go out of bounds.
Yeah.
And I think from that moment, Mike's going, whoa, hang on. And then you had to turn him loose in that moment. And I think it was he called his own number.
Yeah. Well, and he felt like he needed to start,
He read the situation properly, I think.
It's frustrating, man. It's tough. That is, I thought of it today, and it popped up via text. I went, oh, here we go. More people angry again. And this is anything Mike can do anything about. This is like you're stuck. You're like, oh, great. I'm going to get blamed for this too. But no, I will tell you this. 8-4 is possible. Whenever I get really upset, and then I think about the roster, I think, all right, well, 8-4 is possible. You've raised your floor. Your ceiling's still not high enough. It's not where it needs to be. We're not aspiring to where we should be aspiring. Our goals aren't Florida State's goals. But, you can go to 8-4. You can get there. And if you do, it might begin to turn around some of the other aspects that have to improve within the program. So, because it is very simple and it is very easy to spiral. I talked about that earlier. And there is plenty of negativity to go around. I would push back on any of the coaches over there that resent fans complaining about the inadequacy in recruiting. You get a sense that some coaches over there don't like it to be criticized, don't want to hear fans complain about their inability to recruit to a high level. Well, that's the job, man. That's what you're brought here to do. And if you don't have good enough players to acquire enough wins, that's on you. That's not on the fan isn't wrong there. The fan's not wrong to say, how come a kid right up the road is committing to Cal and not you? How come we had a number of local kids go on to do some very, very impressive things at other schools, and then you find out you didn't recruit them either? That it's okay for fans to be angry about that, and you just have to accept that.
Well, and even if you're a new coach, you understand that a large part of the reason you're here is because of the past failures of the people that came before you. And they might be specifically in this area. And so therefore people are going to be sensitive to that because they really want it to work.
Yeah.
Just as much as you do to get paid more. I'm sure you want it to work because that's going to be a 7-figure success story for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants it to work. But if it's not, or if it's lagging behind, heaven forbid you have a guilty conscience because you know that you might have slipped up somewhere, you got to let them vent. That's only natural. There's a greater vigilance about that going on right now from the fan base because of being burned. You could call it pessimism. I could call it vigilance. Either way, people are very sensitive to what's going on because this thing fell apart last year.
Well, yeah, and look, man, we always talk about sports. The good thing about it being a zero-sum game, it's a win-lose scenario. It's very clearly defined. You either do or you don't. If you're not winning, you're going to get criticized. You're going to get ripped.
Right.
They're going to put in the under the microscope the reasons that you're not winning enough.
Well, and that's the Zen response for all sides as well. I mean, they either are or they're not going to. We all know what the stakes are.
Right.
They're in a desperate place right now. And, you can distract yourself in certain areas. Like, for example, on the boards this week, was doing some offensive studies and I put first down Gus Malzahn numbers out there. I was able to deep dive those from some of the services we have, the data services. And one thing that gave me hope is everybody knows Gus Malzahn's going to run the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his first down runs past splits are well over 60-40 to the run.
Good. I love it. I love that aspect. It requires you to be physical in order to do that successfully.
And yet with that knowledge, he routinely finishes in the upper 20 percentile, if not better, upper 10 percentile, top 10 percentile of the ability to get a running back to the line of scrimmage without being hit. So that contact rate that happens at or behind the line of scrimmage, that's a number that ESPN Stats and Info uses an awful lot. It's a number we gawked at because Dalvin Cook and Florida State were one of the worst ever, or worst among their peers
in terms of
Power
how soon contact occurred.
Yes. And yet he would run for 1,700 yards despite this porous offensive line. Well, somehow Gus, no matter the circumstance at UCF, routinely finished in the upper crust in getting the running back to the line of scrimmage without being contacted. The world knows it's coming, and somehow you still get there. That's something that I look to, and I say, all right, I'm going to hang my hat on that, especially considering you got a quarterback who can run and people are scared of.
And I would tell you that, again, you're catering to a system. You've decided to go all in on this system in order to raise the floor. We'll have the larger conversation later about where the top end of this kind of system is. But that said, Tom, that might explain, A, the money to Chroma, and B, them still looking at running backs, despite having a room of 20.
Right.
Because you could picture a scenario. I don't know that this happened, but you're right. With the numbers you just gave, those are empirical. Here you go. If I'm Gus, I'm saying to Mike, when he comes to me, do we need a running back? And I go, look, I love Chroma. I love what we've seen at a high school, but it's going to be a true freshman, and I don't know if he's going to be ready to handle the load. I like to run the ball, as you well know, 60-40 split. I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to run the ball a lot. I'm going to run the ball on first down. And I don't see too many playmakers here as we're currently constructed. So if we can get a dynamic back who's done it in college, I'm willing to go do it, right? I'd say let's do it. It doesn't bode well for many men in that room that's the assessment post-spring, but it certainly is the logic, I think, to be applied here, is that he's saying, look, I'm going to run the ball, and I'm going to get you to the line of scrimmage without getting hit. I always have. Now, I need you to make somebody miss. I need you to run over somebody. I need you to find a way to make a good play, a great play, a game-changing play, and I don't see this on my depth chart currently. So if you got a guy, Mike, that we can get, yeah, man, bring another one into the fold. I'm all right. Roster limits are massive.
Yeah, it's Ocean's 11. You think we need one more?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get one more.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is.
That's it. That's the running back room.
I mean, so you get that. You absolutely get that. Above and beyond. That would be above and beyond VR.com. That'd be where you go and you book a nice, relaxing stay. You're not landlocked. You're on the ocean. You're either in a cottage or the lap of luxury or something in between, whatever you want. They've got variety. There's beauty. It's all there. And we're saving you tons of money. No nonsense. No middleman fees. No VRBO. No Airbnb fees. None of that. And if you use the promo code JCS, it's 5% off the booking fee. So there you go.
rates on the water, those bungalows that we saw on the water with private parking, under $200 a night in May.
You ever feel like a bungalow when you hear the term, when you're saying those bungalows that we visited, Tom, when we were talking about above and beyond? I feel like, and this may be different for everybody, but I feel like if you say, I've been invited to a bungalow, there's going to be weed at that bungalow. It's not true of a condo, not necessarily true of a house. A bungalow, you just expect to see some weed. I'm just saying that's an observation. It's not provided by Above and Beyond. I'm just saying that.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah,
I'm sure that they're happy with that clarification.
What an enticement. But I'm saying, no, that's not what they're providing. Just you hear bungalow, just an observation, bungalow. I bet there's weed at the bungalow.
See, I think the word cozy, and you think the word weed. We have different word associations.
I think that you could say that's one and the same. I also know that I'm just telling you, no matter what you think of, aboveandbeyondvr.com to get you a place over the summer and enjoy yourself. Get on the water. Relax. It's beautiful. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. Sure, we've all heard the news about tariffs. And Kraft Nissan says, what tariffs? Because Nissan has cut the price of its two most popular SUVs, the 2025 Rogue and the 3-row Pathfinder, by up to $1,930 to help make them more affordable. And Nissan price cuts are just that. New lower MSRPs and not a discount. Meaning they're in addition to Kraft discounts, customer rebates, $1,000 bonus cash, and interest rates as low as 4.9% for 72 months. Or 3.9% for 60 months. It's a bold move, especially when most of the auto industry is bracing for double-digit percentage increases. So how does Nissan do it? Because Pathfinder and Rogue are built right here in the U.S. at our plants in Tennessee. And with buyers becoming more price-sensitive, price reductions will boost affordability for all customers, and it's exactly what America and North Florida wants and needs. So you see, Kraft Nissan is the place, and April truly is the best month in a long time to buy a new car. Plus, Nissan has stepped up to the plate by making Rogue and Pathfinder even more affordable.
See, man, if you heard about jewelry is the best in town. Rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. And jewelry.
When was the last time you randomly did something nice for someone that means a lot to you? Now, I say this every day at the end of my show for everybody to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Well, one way to do that is to drop it at Pentalta and get a gift for someone who deserves it. It'll brighten their day, their week, maybe even their year. You don't have to wait for a holiday or special occasion, so don't wait to go check out a true local gem, serving Tallahassee since 1988. Now, sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalta.
On the front line, fighting the insanity of the woke, it's Matt and Brett Oster.
offers you more choices than the rest. More flowers, more mulch, or more pine straw all means that your home or office will be more beautiful than ever. So if you've got spring fever, go to thelawnjohns.com or just look for our big purple truck.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Hims can help. Through HIMS.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to HIMS.com/joy, HIMS.com/JOY.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Sad story here, one that will be interesting to see if Tom and I can navigate. What a weird set of circumstances. I do think it's applicable since you and I play golf together specifically all the time, Tom. And you can speak on this from being the passenger in our golf cart. Now, again, not being callous, just pointing out this is a strange story, and it relates to maybe the way I drive a golf cart and perhaps the way that John Elway drives a golf cart. Here you go. Here's the story. The headline reads today, and it's not a good one. John Elway's business partner, ex-agent, dies from fall and injuries. Obviously, I was intrigued. Thought I might read. Did. Jeff Spurbeck, the longtime friend and business partner and former agent of John Elway, died today from injuries suffered when he fell off a golf cart being driven by the Hall of Fame quarterback. Spurbeck was 62. His death, the result of hitting his head. Elway was driving the golf cart when Spurbeck fell off, hit his head on the asphalt. Spurbeck had been sitting in the passenger seat. Rest of this is sad, obviously, but it'll be interesting to see what happens because there's an investigation now. There is no indication so far that Elway was driving negligently. So that's the good news. That would be truly tragic. And obviously these were dear friends. But Tom, I'm curious, do you think I'm a little bit wild when I drive the golf cart? A little bit too aggressive? Because I'm trying to picture how one falls out of a golf cart. And the only way I can think of it is if you're sitting in the passenger seat, somebody guns it and pulls the steering wheel a little bit. Because otherwise it's hard to fall out of a golf cart. Ever fallen out of a golf cart? You haven't with me.
No, but I've got highlights of moments where I'm going, what? Easy, man. But because there are highlights, that means that you're not regularly a crazy driver.
You wouldn't get in with me if you say you'd be like Jeff. No.
There's one moment in particular. This is years ago. We were at the Devil's Elbow up at Summerport.
The Devil's Elbow.
Going downhill on the par 4. There's the par 3 that's in, down and over the creek.
I like that you can, find the moments of the many
because that bridge is uneasy. You go straight down the hill onto the bridge, and you kind of swerved at the last moment to correct the cart to square up to the bridge.
Yeah,
and it kind of screeched a little bit, and the cart tilted a little bit. The bridge, I mean, that's a good drop.
It made you nervous.
Yeah, and I was like, "What the f?" And you just started laughing. You went, "Ha ha ha!" And that's what I was like, "All right, man. Well, easy, dog."
Obviously, this is a sad story. It sucks. I don't know this man. It's awful for John Elway. It was his dear friend, but I was thinking, how do you fall out of the golf cart in the parking lot? What are we doing out here? Come on, man.
Yeah, we had steep slope, and the thing was, for you, it was no problem because what was in line with my face and the cart was the edge of the bridge. You centered it to make sure I didn't get smacked, but you were never in danger of getting smacked there.
Right.
Other than that, there's been a few moments where, hey, man, where you've hit the gas very hard, and I won't use the term, but I nearly with the railing on the seat, got split in two, and I'm like, hey, man, I haven't sat down yet. Easy.
But then really, we've been golfing together a long time.
Correct.
It's like 2 or 3 moments where you've ever been nervous, and even then, they weren't real nervous, just a little aggressive.
No, that one was that one time. That was a one because I mean the cart is like tilting too. We don't usually drive on the side of hills. There are sometimes when you're going to drive on the side of hills, you're like, hang on, Tommy.
Yeah,
and I'm like, man.
But I tell you then, I warn you ahead of time.
Well, then I'm leaning hard the other way because it matters.
But I got us. Plus, I'm a really good driver. So you're like, okay, you're good. But I give you the warning because I don't want you to fall out of the cart. So I'll give you all right, brother, here we go.
No, now a partner of ours was driving. He was a coworker of ours, but he golfed with us fairly often over a few year span. He did not see the 150 stick.
Which is my favorite moment ever, watching him drive over the 150 stick.
That was at Klarn.
And I was out of the cart. He had the cart. I was off to the left waiting on him to approach, and I'm watching him go straight towards the 150 marker, and I'm like, well, surely he's going to turn the cart. It's about to play.
Which is typically about 4 feet in height, if not taller.
It's like, what just happened? My man just ran over the 150.
They placed these in the middle of the fairway, you know?
Big ass pole. How are you driving over that pole? We got an issue with fan behavior. And I was reading these stories in succession. I circled back to one because it bothered me from the other day. I don't know if you saw that situation where Boston was playing Cleveland and the outfielder Jarren Duran was being heckled by a fan in the stands in Cleveland who was confronted. I want to give credit here, by the way. I'm going to talk about fan behavior for two reasons, but the first one is this. Credit to the fans in Cleveland, where this jerk was pointed out by and identified later by the fellow Cleveland fans around him. This is how they ended up finding out who it was, because he got away in the moment. If you don't know the backstory here, I'll give you the short version. There's a show on Netflix documenting the Red Sox this year. And in an interview with Jarren Duran, an outfielder for them, and he's a good player, he was talking about having gone through a really rough time where he had back-to-back seasons in which he felt like he was letting teammates down, the organization down, his family down, and it spiraled. And he went into a dark place. And he revealed in the interview, and it wasn't self-serving, but he revealed that at one point he tried to commit suicide. So it's a profound moment when you watch it in the interaction, the interview, and him talking to the camera. And one of the reasons that he admitted it was that he wanted to reach out to people who were in a dark place and say, hey, you can get past it. Don't do what I did. I got very lucky that I didn't die. All of those things, right? He's in the outfield of the game the other day, and this fan from Cleveland says you should have killed yourself when you had the chance.
Oh, Lord.
So, A, that makes you the worst human being in the world. B, it makes you somebody who should get pummeled by said individual that you're yelling at. And that's exactly what Jarren Duran went to do. Because you've crossed a line that is fairly obvious to any rational, well-meaning individual. Like there's humor and there's booing and there's stuff like that. There's not that. That doesn't exist. That can't exist. When Duran turned to confront the individual, he ran because he's a bitch. And he sprinted up the steps to get away while players and security held back Duran. And then the individual, the fan, ran into the concourse to get away from what he knew would be security coming to whisk him away. But he was later identified by those fans in Cleveland that have tickets in that area, and he has since been found and is being dealt with, presumably. What's going to happen. It's going to be a lifetime ban. That's what's going to happen. He won't be welcomed back to a baseball game in Cleveland ever again, maybe Major League Baseball ever again. I don't know how you enforce that, but that's what they'll attempt to do. Not unlike the guy strong-arming, was it Betts out there in the outfield in the Yankees game?
Yeah, well, look, this is that Rob Gronkowski knew from college, oddly enough, which right.
I wouldn't admit to that.
Yeah, he did on a morning show the next day. He's like, "Oh, that was my old roommate." Or
good like Lord.
That. Yeah. It's going to be much more enforceable as time goes on, these lifetime bans, because have you seen the expedited entry into some of the major league ballparks?
Yep.
It's facial recognition software,
Mm-hmm.
real time. You just open your phone and then it knows to look for you. But that means that this is going to be like a casino. If it isn't already with the government and
all the
municipalities and all that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, there are more cameras than ever before, everywhere. But yeah, for somebody like this will have more teeth than it did in, say, 1975.
Without question. And I want to marry that with something that happened last night in which Tyrese Halliburton's dad, if you didn't see the end of that game, Indiana came back from down 7 with 40 seconds to play by scoring 8 unanswered to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And at first, if you're watching the end of that game, and it's improbable the way that it played out, I think I saw the stat today, 1,400 plus teams that had a 7-point lead with under 50 seconds to go have won those games until last night. So it's nuts, right? So there's a lot of emotion, and that's the end of Milwaukee's season. And what you saw was obvious celebration from Indiana, but all of a sudden you see a guy on the court celebrating, and you're kind of like, huh. And if you just watched it initially, you'd think it's a fan, and then you realize it's a fan that's taunting Giannis. It's a hell of a thing to taunt Giannis, not a small man. And he's holding up a towel and yelling at Giannis, I don't know, 7 feet from him, 8 feet from him. And Giannis is looking incredulous at the individual, not moving, not saying anything, just looking at him like, really? There's a fan out on the court, A, which is weird, and B, he's taunting me? And it's like he's processing and trying to decide what he wants to do. Now, yours truly is watching this saying, beat his ass. But that's me. Giannis doesn't. And security and an assistant coach and some others quickly get in the way because they recognize, oh, this is not a good situation. Obviously, it's not a good situation. It's clown behavior. And there is no scenario where that would be ever okay. But I was struck by the fact that how did the fan get on the court? Turns out it's not a fan at all. It's Tyrese Halliburton's dad. Now, that sucks for Tyrese Halliburton, who afterwards was asked about it and said, no, my dad is wrong. My pops is wrong. I'm going to talk to him about it. I have talked to him about it. It's embarrassing. I have no words. Like, he was ashamed of his father. Can you imagine? He scored the winning basket. They're celebrating this amazing comeback, and I got to answer questions about my crazy-ass dad taunting Giannis of all people? Like, what are we doing? What are you doing? But moreover, I thought, how is it that it's that easy for anybody to get onto the playing surface? Why are you on the court? You know what's coming next. I mean, we're going to see the level of security that actually is probably more over the top than not, and it's going to have to be. You can't have people, especially with what's happened before, Malice in the Palace, et cetera. You cannot have fans come onto the floor in any circumstance, related or otherwise, to a player. That's nuts. And you're not part of the game. And it got me to thinking about all the ones I've seen in my lifetime. But I was surprised because somebody brought this up the other day, and they are right. And I don't know if you've ever done it. I've not done it. I've not taken the time. But first of all, most rational people get that you are not part of the show. You're not part of the game. You're not part of the attraction. You're not a combatant in the contest. You are just there to observe. And ticket purchases do not allow you much of anything other than the right to be allowed into the stadium to view the action. You hear fans all the time say things like, I paid my money, I bought my ticket, I can say whatever I want to say, which is simply not true. It's, in a way, a private event. Teams, okay, so this is, if you think about it this way, if you read the back of the ticket, it tells you all of this. But there's an owner that owns a team. It's a Major League Baseball game, and the owner owns the team, okay? And they invite you to come to games. They'd like you to come to games, and you purchase tickets. And that ticket, the ticketed event, which could be considered a private event, allows you into said facility, which is owned most of the time by the owner, okay? Now you're there. You then have to abide by the rules, and you do upon purchasing of that ticket for each of those stadiums and each of those ball clubs. That is to say, they have every right, if they'd like, to kick you out for almost anything. If you are yelling at a vendor, if I, president of operations, I walk past the concession stands and you're screaming at the hot dog guy because you don't think you got your hot dog fast enough, I can kick you out. I have every right to do it. We own it. We operate it. You get the hell up out of here. You're unruly. I don't like the way you're being. Leave. And it's on the back of the ticket that they can do that. You say something racist, I can kick you out immediately. You threaten another fan, I can kick you out immediately. In theory, and everybody has to decide for themselves what's the line, you say something negative about the owner, you begin to chant about a player, I can kick you out. I won't, most of the time, but I can.
Usually well before the game, half an hour before the game, there are announcements that are listed through the PA system in the building as well. Not everybody gets to their seat in that amount of time, but I used to have it memorized for Lightning games back in the day because of season tickets.
Right.
You know all the stuff.
Mhm.
But it usually would go into belligerence, intoxication and language and violent language, any type of language. Like they would spell it all out.
They tell you the kinds of things that will immediately lead to your
right. So
expulsion.
You have an AV disclaimer on top of the fact that there is an inherent agreement to using the ticket. The moment the ticket is scanned, you agree to the rules of engagement.
Yeah, because you're a guest.
Yeah.
They're in charge. They can kick you out for anything. So, I mean, it's interesting to see the sort of pervasive attitude of fans. And listen, I like having a good time. And people, I don't know of any organization that actually kicks anybody out for booing. I don't know of any organization that kicks somebody out for having a good time, even a little bit crossing the line, as long as they're not aggressive towards people.
Right.
You don't see fans get kicked out for that.
Yeah, you get a couple strikes with language too.
Yeah.
In terms of just profanity.
Yeah.
Like if you a couple F-bombs, you might get a look from the usher, but
right,
you've got your chance.
Yeah, you've got your opportunity.
Yeah,
They're not trying to kick you out. They don't want to get the reputation that they're overly sensitive and they'll kick you out for things. They want you to go to their ballpark, to their arena, and see the games. They want to make money. They don't want to have to kick people out, but they certainly can. And it seems to me they're going to have to get a little bit more aggressive with the I can kick you out part of all of this, because we're seeing craziness all the time now. And we've had two in a short amount of time. But if you're the NBA, you're mortified. Why are we talking about this today after the crazy ending to a game in which a star player makes a play, and the whole day it's been about what happened afterwards? And obviously, Giannis, as he always does, handled it with dignity and class, and his post-game answer to a question regarding this issue is as good an answer as you could write if you were a PR person. I thought about it from the JCS PR firm standpoint, like, well, there's my guy. That is perfect. He didn't lash out. He just talked about a little disrespectful. Seems a bit much. Not sure why it happened. It was bizarre. Either way, I've won a championship. He hasn't, but cool. That was really fascinating. But why are you letting people dance on the court that aren't either part of the staff or a player? I wonder if they will and probably put it in place as the playoffs are going on.
Well, this is the fine line too, because now you're going to get an overreaction from an overzealous security personnel member. But we root for that when there's a streaker on the field, a football game, like light his ass up, let's go. It's
trying to watch the game here,
yeah, or even a Major League Baseball game. You're like, well, technically this is unsafe because that could be any lunatic doing any number of things. But there's a fine line to walk there too. You want to be aggressive security personnel, or like those cops that were at the Florida-Georgia game last year.
Woo! Straight delivering ass beatings.
With no remorse and no hesitation. Yeah, I mean, but you're going to
That's where the owners of the stadium gave carte blanche to the enforcement of the rules.
That was,
in some cases, it was funny.
Yeah. Well,
it seemed much. It seemed like a lot.
Overzealous enforcement versus belligerent person.
Yeah, well, somebody was a little...
it's an age-old debate.
Here we go. I've talked about my friends at Tried and True for over a year. They're delivering on saving and making you money. That's a great thing. 2025 marks a new era for all those accepting payments. Tried and True, ensuring that businesses are protected. That's a good thing. Recent changes impacting chargebacks, the PCI compliance, they're front and center right now. If you have PCI non-compliance fees, you got to contact Don, Joe, or Rusty. They can mitigate and eliminate an avoidable fee for sure. Secondly, watch out for the chargeback cost. Chargeback costs cost you more, guys. Talk to Tried and True Chargeback Mitigation Services. They got you covered there. Care about your bottom line? They'll save you some money. TriedandTrueConsulting.com. Tried and True. Reach out to Don, Joe, or Rusty today.
Your local news now.
A police pursuit that began at a routine road check led to a temporary road closure and the rest of a
It's now that time of year where you're trading in those golf pants for the shorts because you need breathability. There's a lot of sweating that's going to be going on over the next 5 to 6 months of your life if you live where we do in Tallahassee or anywhere in the southeastern footprint on Warchant TV and the Warchant Podcast Network. Well, Bird Dogs to the rescue because they combine comfort, fit, versatility. You can wear these shorts everywhere. Here's 2 pairs that have been sent my way from our friends at Bird Dogs. Excellent blue color. You can see the built-in liner there. So it's a 2-for-1 here. You don't have to worry about 2 pieces of clothing. You can just use the liner that Bird Dogs has. Outstanding breathability. It's stretch fit. It's super light. These things are going to save your bacon if you're outdoors this spring and summer, be it on the golf course, you're going to happy hour, but your friend is insistent on sitting outside to go get that glass of wine or that cocktail. All right, if you were wearing those old khaki shorts or those old stiff cargo shorts from yesteryear, you were going to be sweating, and that was going to be a problem. Now, breathability, baby. This is exactly what you want, and it's from our friends at Bird Dogs. For a limited time for our listeners and viewers, you get a free hat when you order with code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. You get this hat right here on the screen completely free when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. Support our network and let them know we sent you. Again, one more time, for a limited time, listeners get a free hat with any order when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com. You get this hat on the screen completely free when you use code WAKEUP at birddogs.com.
Mix those storm leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark Construction.com.
CCC 133-1204.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Let's rock out with the probables, good sir. I don't know if it's exactly rocking out, but it is a catchy little tune, I do say.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Game in progress. Detroit over Houston 7-3, fifth inning. That is Jackson Jobe and AJ Blubla. Blubla. It's a new favorite. Blubla. Colorado. Say it ain't so. Come on, Atlanta. It's 2-1. It's only the third. Don't worry about it, Braves fans. By the way, Braves win today, they'll be 500, and as I stated when they were 0-7, they're going to make the playoffs. Chris Sale is starting today for the Braves. Rockies, Chase Dollander. Just so you know, the Rockies are 4-25. Marlins, Dodgers, yep, 3-0 Dodgers. Cal Quantrill started for the Marlins. That game's in the third. Tony Gonsolin going for the Dodgers. Angels, Mariners, Tyler Anderson. Emerson Hancock goes for the Mariners today. Giants, Padres, Landon Raup, Michael King. Twins, Guardians, Pablo Lopez, Luis Ortiz. Yankees, Orioles, Carlos Carrasco, Cade Povich. I guessed right. Cubs drubbed the Pirates yesterday. Here's a little note for you. 9-inning game, the Cubs didn't strike out once. Good pitching, Pittsburgh. 9-0 Cubs yesterday. We'll see how bad they pound my Buccos today. Should be decisive. Place your money on the Cubs. Matthew Boyd, Carmen Malinsky, he sucks. Big Cubs win. Easy money, guys. Cardinals, Reds, Steven Matz, Chase Petty. Nats, Phillies, Jake Irvin, Christopher Sanchez. We got the Royals and the Rays. Noah Cameron, great last name. Drew Rasmussen goes for the Rays. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Luis Giolito, and Uriel Rodriguez. T-backs Mets. Gonna stay up late tonight? Oh, not late. 7:10. That's in New York. My bad.
Yeah, we get them late next week over there.
Corbin Burns got the two TVs going. You'll be watching the Lightning try to stay alive. Watch your Mets, who have lost one game at home this year, get another win. Corbin Burns is not the Corbin Burns of years old. What's Brazoban like? Any good?
Oh, really? Oh, that's an opener situation. So it's we got a
Huasker?
Yeah, we've got
Huasker.
That's a bullpen game.
Okay. Brewers, White Sox, Tobias Myers, Shane Smith. We got the A's and the Rangers, Luis Severino, my bad. Nathan Eovaldi, and Cardinals, Reds. What a full slate tonight. Miles Mikolas. Yes. Brady Singer goes for the Reds, and that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. It felt that way, right? It did. It felt that way. Whoa, contributions that I missed today. To be honest, blame the Jets for rushing him back so soon. We disagree, right? 2 Live Hollywood. What's up, baby? I'm not being nice anymore. I was before Mike. He is not a Power 4 coach. Don't talk like one, act like one. Hell, don't even get mad like one. Go get a Mercedes and stop bringing in Hondas. Taking shots at Hondas. 2 Live jumps back in. Say what you want about Billy. He can recruit. Yes, he can. And we did say that. All right, 2 Live. I should have got to you earlier. That's on me. That's on the host who didn't recognize it. Till tomorrow. Peace.
Hey, everybody. This is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage.